Chapter 197. She is devastatingly beautiful as for Su Yingxue. She even gave her this sachet? She quickly took the sachet and sniffed it. There was indeed a medicinal fragrance emanating from inside. She examined the sachet again and found it to be adorned with ordinary patterns, lacking any unique features. Su Yuro tore the sachet off and tossed it into a corner of the carriage. What a shabby thing! She was dressed in jewelry and was extremely luxurious. Wearing Su Yingxue's sachet was like having a stain on it. Disgusting! Yuan Ruo picked up the sachet and opened the window. If Miss doesn't like it, just throw it away. Wait. Su Yuro halted her actions and took the sachet back. Despite her strong reluctance, she still fastened the sachet to her belt. As long as it posed no issues, she intended to keep it for the day before discarding it. She wasn't foolish enough to fall into Su Yingxue's trap by raising a fuss about the sachet once they entered the palace. In Su Yingxue and Su Hao's carriage. In theory, the young master and the miss of the Marquis Manor should have taken separate carriages. Su Hao should have been assigned a carriage of his own. However, considering the strained relationship between Su Yingxue and Su Yuro, Su Hao refrained from complicating matters. Nevertheless, he furrowed his brows. The Wu family must be present today. Su Yingxue casually waved the sachet in her hand and smiled. If the Wu family isn't here, how can the Empress control you? Moreover, why is Su Yuro suddenly so enthusiastic? Upon hearing this, a crease formed on Su Hao's forehead. If we can't settle this matter today, I will never marry her. My wife can only be Yin'er. Sister, what are you planning? Is it dangerous? Su Hao couldn't help but express his concern. He didn't want Su Yingxue to be ensnared in any potential danger due to his actions. Brother, don't worry. What I'm doing isn't dangerous. You needn't be concerned. As long as you don't remove the sachet from yourself, Su Yingxue replied, playing with the sachet in her hand, her smile carrying a sense of assurance. Su Hao sniffed the sachet carefully. This medicinal scent is quite pleasant. However, as he pondered further and remembered that Su Yingxue had forcefully given one to Su Yuro earlier, coupled with the elaborate reason she had provided, he started to entertain the possibility. Could Su Yuro's sachet serve another purpose? Brother, men shouldn't be overly clever, lest they fall prey to women's schemes, Su Yingxue teased, sticking her tongue out at him. Su Hao rubbed her head helplessly. You, such a mischievous one. Su Yingxue's playful demeanor always reminded him of his mother. At the Empress' birthday banquet, Chu Xiuwen was bedridden. Although the Empress sympathized with him and had him brought to the palace for recovery, his injuries were severe, and he could only remain bedridden. Chu Qingye was overseeing all affairs in Fengzhou Palace. Chu Qingye hadn't come specifically to wait for anyone today, but when Su Yingxue and Su Hao appeared together, she instantly caught his attention. Wow! Who's that miss from which family? How can she be so stunning? Am I seeing things? She's like a fairy who has descended to the mortal realm. Oh my goodness! It's Su Yingxue. Amidst the crowd's exclamations, Su Yingxue strolled gracefully toward Chu Qingye. She wore a peach blossom dress, with a peach blossom belt cinching her slender waist, accentuating her alluring figure. And her face, it was so mesmerizing that it could captivate an entire nation. Chu Qingye was left dumbfounded. Follow current novels on Top Novelful. CM. Chapter 198. Ignoring Chu Qingye, Su Yingxue had a smile on her face, and she was as beautiful as a peach blossom. She blinked her eyes twice, like a fairy that had run out of flowers. Chu Qingye's heart was beating rapidly at this moment. He reached out with a warm smile on his handsome face. Yingxue, Dr. Su. Lin Sisi suddenly rushed out from behind him and jumped in front of Su Yingxue. The smile on Su Yingxue's face became even wider. You're enthusiastic today. Because you're coming. One finally have a companion. One bumped into you at the Ninth Prince's bookstore a few days ago, but you ignored me. Lin Sisi and Su Yingxue chatted and laughed as they walked to the side. Chu Qingye's hand was still in midair, and a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. He understood that Su Yingxue was not smiling at him just now. He called her so gently, but she didn't even look at him. Su Yingxue. He could not help but shout angrily. Su Yingxue turned around and looked at him strangely. What's the matter, Your Highness? Didn't you see me? Chu Chengye's deep voice was filled with suppressed anger. If Su Yingxue were to coax him now, he would not hold it against her. He would entertain her well today. Oh. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes, turned around, and returned to Lin Cici's side. Chu Chengye's eyes were burning with rage. Ignoring him, and even saying that he was sick, Su Yingxue was getting bolder and bolder. Su Yuro watched all of this from the side coldly. She gritted her teeth in hatred towards Su Yingxue. However, when Chu Chengye was angry, she walked up to him and put her hand on his hand. She said gently and concernedly, Your Highness is organizing the birthday banquet for the Empress. You must take care of your health and not tire yourself out. Su Yuro's words were like a clear spring that extinguished the anger in Chu Chengye's heart in time. His expression eased a little. He had always felt that Su Yuro and Su Yingxue looked similar. However, looking at Su Yuro now, she felt that she was much worse than Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue was beautiful and flamboyant, while she was obedient and delicate. The two of them could not be mentioned in the same breath. It seemed that Chu Chengye had lost interest. He nodded at Su Yuro and turned around to do other things. Su Yuro's hands froze in midair. Her heart turned cold, and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. Your Highness, now, he only said yes to her? Yuan Ruo was afraid that Su Yuro would be sad, so she quickly fanned the flame. Miss, Your Highness was only temporarily bewitched by eldest young Mississippi. You are the most important person in his heart. Miss, don't let Su Yingxue get her way. Su Yuro held back the tears in her eyes and secretly gritted her teeth. Su Yingxue, I will never let her have her way. On the other side, Su Yingxue and Lin Cici stood together. One of them was in a pink dress, while the other was in a green dress. One was charming and cute, while the other was valiant. They intertwined together to form a beautiful scenery. Su Yingxue saw that the smile on Lin Cici's face was much brighter than before and teased her. Things are different now. Have you seen the generals and young masters you like? No. Those people looked down on me in the past, and now they don't treat me sincerely. I don't like them. Lin Cici said boldly. Su Yingxue admired her character the most. Now that she saw her confidence, she was also very happy for her. It was just that she still had important matters to attend to at the Empress' birthday banquet today. She deliberately stood in an inconspicuous position and saw Wu Ruofei coming over with Madame Wu. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. Moreover, marriage is determined by parents and matchmakers. How could one disagree? While our Marquis manor consists of military personnel, we must still uphold proper etiquette. When you, sister-in-law, join us in marriage with me, Su Yingxue, by your side, I won't let you suffer. Wu Ruofei looked as if she had seen a ghost. Even the composed Madame Wu beside her was filled with doubt. What was Su Yingxue up to? Su Yingxue displayed grace and generosity, and she even asked Wu Ruofei deliberately, My brother is over there. Would you like to go and speak a few heartfelt words to him, future sister-in-law? After all, you've admired him for so long, and your wish has finally come true. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. Chapter 200. Suspicious, damn it, brother how? Wu Ruofei couldn't resist the temptation and jumped up, wishing she could fly to Su Hao's side. However, Madame Wu pulled her back forcefully. Ruofei, don't be presumptuous at the Empress' birthday banquet. Mother, I want to talk to Brother Hao. It wasn't easy for him to come here today, and it was us who begged the Empress. Mother, shut up. Madame Wu's face was livid as she quickly covered Wu Ruofei's mouth. Su Yingxue covered her lips with a handkerchief, and a hint of a smile flashed across her eyes. She knew that with Wu Ruofei's personality, as long as she was tempted, she would say what she wanted everyone to hear. However, Madame Wu was a shrewd person. She would not let her go over easily and ruin her reputation. Su Yingxue bowed to the madams. Since the future sister-in-law is not going to talk to my brother, I can't leave him alone. Farewell, madams. You're too polite, Miss Su. Madame Lin smiled politely at her. After she left, Madame Lin and Madame Wu exchanged doubtful glances. On the other hand, the few madams and miss on the side suddenly had a change in their opinion of Su Yingxue. This miss from the Marquis Manor is also polite and doesn't seem like a rude and unreasonable person. In the future, when Miss Wu marries over, one think they will get along harmoniously. But from what Miss Su said just now, one think Miss Wu admires General Su more. Young General Su didn't come over. He doesn't seem like someone who would take the initiative. Behind the madams, the noble ladies who also admired Su Hao said a few words to Wu Ruofei and then dispersed. They looked at Wu Ruofei with disdain, as if they knew that Su Hao wouldn't have been in love with Wu Ruofei for so many years. Wu Ruofei's face scrunched up in anger. She kept complaining to Madame Wu, "Mother, why didn't you let me talk to Brother Hao? That way, I can shut their mouths and let them know that I'm in Brother Hao's heart." Madame Wu pulled her aside and glared at her. "Don't you know that Su Hao doesn't have you in his heart? Have you forgotten how you got married to him?" Madame Wu saw Wu Ruofei's good-for-nothing look and used this reality to wake her up. Wu Ruofei pouted. "I don't care. If I get Brother Hao, he's mine. I must marry him. No one can snatch him from me. Even if you get him, you have to have the ability to hold on to him." "Who was Su Hao?" "You." Madame Wu poked Wu Ruofei's forehead hard and began to regret that she had only spoiled her temper for so many years and had not taught her to grow her brain properly. With her brain, even if she became Su Hao's official wife, if Su Hao took Wu Jinyin as his concubine in the future, Wu Jinyin would still be able to bully her to death. She originally planned to get rid of Wu Jinyin before Su Hao and Wu Ruofei got married. However, not only did this little bitch not interact with Su Hao recently, but she also had experts protecting her. None of the people she sent out came back alive, which made her very angry. What made her even angrier was Su Yingxue's words just now. Unusual. She could break Wu Ruofei's hands and feet, and she could even use her husband's weakness to make him kneel and kowtow. Now, she had agreed to the marriage on Su Hao's behalf and even called Wu Ruofei's future sister-in-law. There was something suspicious. It was too suspicious. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. Chu Yihan couldn't resist pinching the soft flesh of her face. This gesture stirred something within him. Seeing her embarrassment and her attempts to hide the whip, Chu Yihan reassured her. "You haven't used the whip for long. With more practice, you'll learn to control its strength. You're already doing quite well." "Yes, I'll practice more. After all, I'm quite clever." Su Yingxue tilted her little face toward Chu Yihan, resembling an elf from the midst of flowers, a mix of cuteness and mischief. Lin Cixi stood behind a pillar, observed this scene, and then thought about Chu Yihan's cold attitude towards her. Suddenly, she understood. There were significant differences among people. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. Chapter 202. Stand up and try, hey? Don't be sad. The imperial uncle doesn't even show a good expression to my father. The only person in this world who can make him smile and treat him gently is my auntie. Chu Jinling popped out like a groundhog and gave a flirtatious wink to Lin Cixi. Lin Cixi clicked her tongue in agreement. That's true. After all, not everyone can claim this honor. Dr. Su is both kind-hearted and skilled, and she truly deserves it. But if word gets out, there might be many women causing trouble for her, like her two-faced younger sister. Chu Jinling snorted softly. Someone who can be my auntie, can't she handle women trying to harm her? Just wait and see. Today, I might gather some interesting material. Hey, did you bring the 8th volume of Peerless Martial God? One finished reading the 7th volume ages ago, and am itching for more. I've got it right here. Come on, let's go read it. Chu Jinling and Lin Cixi quietly slipped away to a corner to read. Meanwhile, Chu Yihan was preparing to teach Su Yingxue how to wield the whip, but Su Yingxue decided to hang the whip on her waist instead and puffed up her cheeks. She said, "Today, I won't practice anymore. They'll practice it at home." "Why? Do you want me to teach you at the Marquis Manor?" Chu Yihan couldn't resist pinching her small face again. The sensation was truly irresistible. As her face was pinched by him, It turned even redder, revealing a pure, flower-like softness that was the epitome of beauty. No need. They'll have Cece teach me. I don't want to wield the whip in front of you. Su Yingxue was now regretting her decision to start whip practice today. In front of Chu Yihan, she was shouting and fighting like she wasn't a delicate young girl at all. After a while, Chu Yihan might even treat her like a man. She didn't want that. She had dressed so adorably today in the hopes of receiving a cute compliment from him. But Chu Yihan was too focused on pinching her face and didn't say a word about her cuteness. Looking up at his tall figure, Su Yingxue asked, "Your Highness, how does my outfit look today?" Chu Yihan nodded and replied, "Very good. Just very good?" Su Yingxue's eyes held a hint of expectation. Could he use some other words, like pink, cute, tempting, making him want to cough? Chu Yihan noticed that she was acting differently today. Considering it was the Empress' birthday banquet, she had had to interact with many women, which probably went against her preferences. He gently ran his fingers through her hair and said, "If you don't want to, you don't have to dress like this in the future." Su Yingxue was left speechless. Was he suggesting that she didn't look good in this outfit? Wasn't she cute enough? She felt like crying. Su Yingxue made a soft "oh" sound and lowered her head, allowing him to stroke her hair. In the backyard, the sound of a wheelchair could be heard. Chu Xiaowen watched the two of them behaving intimately in the courtyard and sneered, "Miss Su, you truly disregard formalities. Seducing my seventh brother in the past was one thing, but now you've set your sights on ninth imperial uncle. Your ambitions are growing, aren't you?" Upon seeing him, Su Yingxue quickly shifted from her obedient demeanor to a cold and sharp one. "Third Prince, this cripple had to come out and make a spectacle of himself. When it comes to ambition, I can't possibly compare to you, Third Prince." "Su Yingxue, how dare you call me a cripple?" Chu Ziyuan's grip on the wheelchair's armrest tightened, causing it to twist. Su Yingxue gazed at him innocently. Was the Third Prince joking with her? Why not try standing up? Follow current novels on Top Novelful. CM. Chapter 203. The Battle of the Three Kingdoms. Show off your wealth. Chu Xiaowen, infuriated and humiliated, attempted to stand up but instead aggravated his wound, causing him to wince in pain. He restrained his anger. "Su Yingxue, what's the point of arguing with me here? You'd be better off tending to your brother's marriage. A distinguished young general, the heir of the Marquis Manor, yet he can't even marry the one he loves. He is truly useless." Su Yingxue rolled up her sleeves, ready to give him a thrashing. After all, this was the backyard. If she secretly gave him a beating, no one would see it. The Empress couldn't do anything to her. But before she could strike, there was a loud crash. An invisible palm force struck Chu Xiaowen, sending him and his wheelchair crashing into the wall. The wheelchair shattered into pieces, leaving him sprawled on the ground, face down. Struggling to speak, Chu Xiaowen muttered, "Ninth Imperial Uncle, the banquet is about to begin." Chu Yihan assisted Su Yingxue and led her away. As Su Yingxue passed by Chu Xiaowen, she suddenly felt a twinge of pity for him. She covered her mouth and chuckled. "Your Highness, you were a bit harsh on your nephew. What if he got injured?" Chu Yihan remained expressionless. It's impossible for him not to get injured. Su Yingxue couldn't help bursting into laughter. The ninth imperial uncle was a man of few words. Princes like Chu Xiaowen, who didn't get along with him, often ended up beaten. Chu Yihan's actions made Su Yingxue very happy, but she still needed to keep a low profile to avoid trouble for both of them. They would have to settle their affairs at a later time. Once they came out, they went their separate ways. Su Yingxue noticed Su Hao standing alone in the corridor, looking quite lonely. She approached him and patted his shoulder. "Brother." Su Hao held a sachet in his hand as if he had caressed it countless times. The Su character on it revealed a deep yearning in his eyes. "Brother, if you keep thinking about it, Sister Jinyan might sneeze." "Sister, I haven't seen her for several days." Su Hao's eyes showed disappointment. He hadn't dared to look for Yenner during this period, but she hadn't come to see him either. Su Yingxue nodded. "Sister Jinyan didn't look for you, but she did come to me." "Don't worry, brother. She's doing well. Why hasn't she come to see me? I miss her. Su Hao's emotions were low. After today, Sister Jin Yin will come to see you, Su Yingxue said with a charming smile and bright eyes. Su Hao had originally wanted to ask something else, but then he heard a eunuch loudly announce at the palace entrance, "Noble Consort Xiao has arrived. Consort Xiang has arrived." Everyone in the palace immediately bowed. "Greetings, noble consort, Consort Xiang." "Oh my, there's no need for such formality. Everyone, please rise. Today, we all came to celebrate the Empress' birthday together. No need to be so reserved." Noble Consort Xiao was fond of smiling, considerate, and generous. Her words made her sound more like the hostess of Fengzhou Palace. The Empress, standing at the entrance to the main hall, heard Noble Consort Xiao's words and coldly snorted. "You finally remember that you're here to celebrate my birthday. Arriving late, are you trying to steal all of my spotlight?" "Empress, what are you saying? Your Fengzhou Palace is so magnificent that no matter how much I renovate mine, it can't compare. Look, I've expanded it by 2 palaces and renovated it 7 or 8 times, but it still can't match the grandeur of yours." Noble Consort Xiao's tone carried a hint of helplessness, but it subtly flaunted her wealth. It was like a dagger thrust into the Empress' heart. While the Empress maiden family was well off, they couldn't match the wealth of Noble Consort Xiao. Renovating the palace 7 or 8 times, spending money so lavishly, it was something she couldn't even dream of. Follow current novels on Top Novelful. CM. Chapter 204. The Empress of Face Slapping. But when the Empress saw Consort Xiang by Noble Consort Xiao's side, she coldly snorted, "Noble Consort Xiao, are you trying to belittle Consort Xiang? Her palace hasn't seen any renovations for years, and I was just planning to have it refurbished." A faint smile appeared on Consort Xiang's delicate, snow-like face. "Thank you, Empress. Why would younger sister Consort Xiang need your highness to renovate her palace? In a few days, she will be moving to a new palace. The emperor ordered the construction of Shiyao Palace months ago for younger sister Consort Xiang. One had the chance to see it yesterday, and it's like a paradise on earth. It's said that every plaque and couplet was personally written by the emperor, and even the flowers at the main hall's entrance were planted by his own hands. Consort Xiang's good fortune is something we can only envy." Noble Consort Xiao laughed heartily. This was another blade that pierced the Empress' heart. The Empress couldn't compare to Noble Consort Xiao in wealth, and compared to Consort Xiang, she had long lost the emperor's favor. Now, in the presence of these two, she felt like a big joke. Consort Xiang smiled slightly. In the past, she was a woman of few words, but now she had brought many gifts. When she presented them to the Empress, she said, "Your Majesty, these are all my little gifts. One come from the western region and have nothing of value. These are all gifts that the emperor gave me, and one send them to congratulate you on your birthday." Behind her, Xiang Ling opened the gift boxes one by one. "Wow, what a big pearl. What a beautiful red coral." The emperor's treatment of Consort Xiang is truly unparalleled. Everyone began to flatter Consort Xiang. Consort Xiang used to be not good at dealing with the noble ladies of the court, but now that she had stayed with Noble Consort Xiao for a few days, she had learned a lot of speaking skills. When she talked to them, she was also gentle and modest. She was so approachable that everyone forgot that the main character today was the Empress of Fengzhou Palace. The Empress' eyes were red with hatred, wishing she could drag Consort Xiang out and chop her up right now. This slut should have perished long ago. But Su Yingxue had pulled her back from the brink of death. It was all Su Yingxue's fault. If not for her, the Empress wouldn't have lost so much face. The Empress' sharp gaze shot towards Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue responded with a faint smile. She had no other intentions, but she guessed that this smile would infuriate the Empress, and that's precisely the effect she desired. "Ladies, the banquet is ready. Please take your seats," Chu Chengya, the Empress' legitimate son, announced solemnly. The guests moved away from Consort Xiang and Noble Consort Xiao. The banquet was set up on a refreshing terrace outside the palace. The surroundings were adorned with flowers, and filled with fragrant scents. Chu Qingye had personally designed the garden, and it exuded the majesty of the Empress Middle Palace. On the Empress' birthday, only noble women and their daughters were allowed to enter the palace to offer their congratulations. Chu Qingye had arranged for the princes to sit opposite the female guests. As for Chu Yihan, Chu Qingye had initially not intended for him to attend. However, there was no place in the Great Qing dynasty that he wouldn't dare to visit. Therefore, his seat was just below that of the Empress. Su Hao had been specially invited into the palace by the Empress. Chu Qingye had placed him by his side to demonstrate their closeness. The female guests had several rows of seats, but the male guests had only 4. These 4 individuals were all princes and generals with noble statuses and handsome appearances. All the noble ladies couldn't help but be captivated by them, their gazes firmly fixed on the 4 of them. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. Chapter 205. Despise the law. Su Yingxue also wanted to get a better look at Chu Yihan, but to her surprise, Chu Qingye deliberately arranged for her to sit in the 3rd row. She had to crane her neck to catch a glimpse of Chu Yihan, who occupied the 1st row seat. Chu Yihan seemed to sense her discomfort and stood up, walking over to Chu Qingye. He issued a cold command. "Get up and move over." Chu Qingye glanced across at Su Yingxue. From where he sat, he had a clear view of her. He had deliberately arranged the seating this way to prevent Chu Yihan from taking advantage of the situation. Chu Qingye maintained a composed expression and responded firmly, "Imperial uncle deserves respect, and it is only proper for you to have the higher seat. There is no reason for me to encroach upon it." "I don't mind. Just get up." Chu Yihan's tone turned cold, tinged with a hint of menace. Chu Qingye, still maintaining his dignified posture, replied, "I cannot agree to such a breach of etiquette." He seemed determined to stand his ground against Chu Yihan. However, he had forgotten that when Chu Yihan had no intention of being reasonable, no one could reason with him. Chu Yihan effortlessly lifted Chu Qingye and placed him back in his previous seat, then elegantly adjusted his robe before sitting down. Among the female guests, most of the noble ladies were left in awe. Upon regaining their composure, many of them were infatuated. "Sigh, how can Imperial Uncle be so handsome? Your Highness, I want to bear his child. In the future, our children should be as handsome and valiant as your Highness." Stop daydreaming. Finally, Su Yingxue no longer needed to stretch her neck to see Chu Yihan. At this moment, she contentedly propped up her face and openly gazed at Chu Yihan. That elder imperial uncle was indeed considerate. "Year!" the Empress exclaimed and quickly had someone help Chu Qingye to his feet. Chu Qingye spat out a mouthful of blood and glared indignantly at Chu Yihan. He had struck him in public. "Ninth Prince, Year holds you in such high regard, yet you've gone too far." The Empress' eyes blazed with anger as if she wished she could burn Chu Yihan alive. Chu Yihan held a wine glass in his hand, his gaze fixed on Su Yingxue. He paid no attention to the others. "The Emperor has arrived." Chu Mingyuan walked in from outside the palace with a stern expression. Upon entering, he questioned, "Empress, today is your birthday celebration. What is the commotion about?" "Emperor, you've arrived." "It's not me." Ninth Prince was too much. Year respected him, but he had beaten Year to such a state with one palm. One begged the Emperor to give justice to Year. The Empress gritted her teeth and tried to avenge Chu Qingye. Chu Mingyuan frowned and glanced at Chu Yihan. He then walked up to Chu Qingye and asked, "Do you need to summon the court physician?" Chu Qingye was worried about his mother and shook his head. "Thank you, father. I'm fine. It's just that the position of the 9th imperial uncle is against etiquette. I shouldn't be sitting here." Chu Qingye had always been Chu Mingyuan's favorite. Chu Mingyuan patted him on the shoulder. "Yes, you're very sensible. Go sit beside your 9th brother." Chu Qingye saw that Chu Mingyuan did not stand up for him. Although he felt wronged, he did not dare to say anything. Chu Mingyuan didn't show any dissatisfaction with Chu Yihan. He didn't even say a word to him. He called out to the Empress, "Empress, let's begin the banquet." "Emperor, the 9th Prince didn't follow the rules and ruined my birthday banquet." He even injured Yi. The blood in the Empress' heart surged wildly. How could she watch her precious son be humiliated like this? Enough. Stop talking and start the banquet. Chu Mingjiwan's expression darkened. Follow current novels on top novel full. CM. Chapter 206. What was Su Yingxue acting for? The grievances in the Empress' heart flowed like a river. At this moment, noble consort Xiao spoke up and said, Empress, the Emperor, and the ninth prince have a brotherly and respectful relationship. Can we bear to chastise them? The Emperor came to celebrate your birthday. Do you want to dampen the Emperor's spirits? Emperor, wouldn't you agree? Indeed, noble consort speaks wisely. Chu Mingyuan complimented as he glanced approvingly at noble consort Xiao. Noble consort Xiao half covered her cheeks and let out a coquettish laugh. If only the Empress could remove her phoenix crown, she might have confronted Chu Yihan head-on, but she couldn't. All she could do was watch as Chu Chengye set up a separate table, placed it behind Chu Jinling, and reluctantly took his seat. And she, in turn, could only return to Chu Mingjiwan's side. She wished Chu Mingyuan would hold her hand, even if it was just for comfort. However, as soon as she had settled down, Chu Mingyuan turned to consort Xiang and inquired, Xianger, are you feeling unwell today? Did the imperial physician check your pulse on time? If you're uncomfortable, you must inform me. I am fine. Thank you for your concern, Emperor, consort Xiang replied, her lips curving into a delicate smile, radiating a demeanor akin to that of a celestial being. When Su Yingxue glanced over, she witnessed an interaction between the two of them. The Empress clenched her teeth and continued to preside over the banquet. All the attendees presented their gifts and offered their birthday wishes, yet her countenance remained sour. The wives had anticipated the prince's attendance today and had made preparations for their daughters. They encouraged them to perform at the banquet, hoping to catch the eye of a prince and secure a future as a prince's consort. The Empress was more than willing to assist in their endeavors. 7 or 8 noble ladies showcased their talents, excelling in singing, dancing, reciting poetry, or painting. Each one displayed remarkable skill. Chu Mingyuan was focused on his son's marriages too and rewarded several exceptional noble daughters. The 9th noble lady to perform was Su Yuro. She had shed her outer attire and adorned herself in a white, wide-sleeved gown of light gauze. Her beauty was captivating, and her graceful form danced elegantly on the stage, her white garments billowing in the breeze, resembling a celestial nymph. Su Yingxue couldn't tell whether the attending princes were awestruck or not, but she did observe envious glances among the noble ladies. Well done. The Marquis of Martial South has indeed raised an exceptional daughter, Chu Mingyuan commended, rewarding her with a smile. Su Yuro, having gained favor in front of Chu Mingyuan, became even more affected. Blushing, she feigned shyness and said, I possess little talent. Apart from this dance, I have also composed a birthday song for the Empress. I hope your Highness will accept it. Oh, why don't you recite it for us? The Empress' eyes brimmed with admiration. Su Yuro's voice, as melodious as a warbler's song, brought her lyrics to life in a melodious tune. After her performance, many were captivated by her singing and artistic talent. Even the envious gazes dared not be too overt. Exquisite both in appearance and demeanor. I shall certainly reward Su Dingheng. His daughter is truly outstanding. Chu Mingyuan praised Su Yuro. Even the Empress gestured to offer her generous rewards. If Su Yuro was content, she had certainly earned herself plenty of recognition by accepting the rewards. However, upon seeing Su Yingxue's relaxed demeanor, she couldn't help but feel a surge of disdain. A hint of cruelty flashed in her eyes. After changing out of her dance attire, she adopted a soft and charming tone. Emperor, my father has always held my sister to a higher standard. Today, my sister has also prepared some talents to celebrate the Empress' birthday. Oh, is that so? Chu Mingyuan stroked his beard and glanced at Su Yingxue. Are you perhaps prepared to provide on-the-spot medical treatment for everyone today? Follow current novels on top novel full. CM. Chapter 207. You're making things difficult for her, huh? Chu Mingyuan humorously remarked, eliciting laughter from everyone. Su Yingxue chuckled as well. She thought, Emperor, you are indeed quite amusing. She wondered, would they dare to bring a patient forward for her to treat if she dared to perform in public? However, when Chu Mingyuan called her name, she had no choice but to step forward and bow, saying, reporting to the Emperor, I lack any particular talent, so I shall refrain from embarrassing myself at your Majesty's birthday banquet. Su Yingxue, your sister just mentioned that your father is stricter with you. How can you claim to lack any talent? Even the Emperor praised the Marquis of Martial South for his daughter's excellent upbringing. Aren't you undermining the Emperor's and your father's reputation by saying this? The Empress sneered, her gaze laden with pressure. Your Majesty, the Emperor was merely jesting moments ago. I can treat someone. Although it may not be suitable for entertaining guests, my talents have saved many lives. My skills should not pale in comparison to the talents displayed by the noble ladies, Su Yingxue stated confidently, raising her head and chest proudly. As the Empress had surmised, Su Yingxue had never been exposed to music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, or songs since childhood. Her knowledge in these areas was non-existent. However, her ability to heal was unmatched among the noble ladies of the great Qing dynasty. You're right, Father, Empress. Miss Su possesses the remarkable gift of bringing the dead back to life. While it may not be considered a conventional talent, it far surpasses the typical talents in fields like music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, which cannot perform such miracles. Chu Jinling exclaimed after finishing his notes. He was the first to stand up in support of Su Yingxue. Su Hao also rose and paid his respects, saying, Emperor, Empress, although my younger sister was never pressured to study and practice calligraphy from a young age, she possesses a unique skill. I believe that the ability to heal and save lives through medicine is an invaluable talent. General Su is right, Chu Mingyuan concurred, stroking his beard. He was aware of Su Yingxue's abilities, and the request for her to perform today had indeed put her in a difficult position. Furthermore, not all his children excelled in both academics and martial arts. For instance, Chu Jinling, who had spoken up for Su Yingxue, was merely a child who enjoyed playing. Chu Mingyuan affectionately gazed at Chu Jinling and said, since Linger is acquainted with Su Yingxue, return to your seats together. Yes, father. Chu Jinling happily moved to Su Yingxue's side and playfully teased, let's go, auntie. Su Yingxue playfully bared her teeth at him. Try calling me auntie again. Annie Su. Ninth aunt. Hee hee. Chu Jinling chuckled mischievously, like a clever child. Wait. The Empress halted them with a stern expression. Su Yingxue, are you truly unwilling to perform for me today? Sensing the Empress' unfriendly gaze, Su Yingxue replied in a hushed tone, Empress, it's not that I am unwilling but rather unprepared. Rushing into a performance might disrupt your Majesty's birthday banquet and cause unnecessary trouble. If you refuse to perform for me, it's as if you're belittling me. The Empress slammed the table emphatically. I invited everyone here today, and they've all come to celebrate my birthday. Young ladies from various families have showcased their talents, yet you decline. Moreover, your sister mentioned that you were prepared. Now, you refuse to perform. Are you implying that you don't hold me in high regard? Su Yingxue smiled. Was the Empress deliberately provoking her? Why? If she didn't watch her performance, would her birthday banquet be ruined? Would she become a year younger? Or perhaps avoid a few crow's feet? So what if she doesn't hold you in high regard? Chu Yihan's voice, dripping with murderous intent, sent shivers through everyone present. The once spacious atmosphere suddenly felt stifling due to his words. Follow current novels on Top Novelful. CM. Chapter 208. Chu Qingye makes a move. It seemed as if Chu Yihan had a metaphorical knife hanging over the Empress' neck. She wanted to remove it, but Chu Yihan's presence compelled her not to. Enough. Since Su Yingxue wasn't prepared, let it be, Chu Mingyuan suggested, attempting to defuse the situation. He had never engaged in disputes with Chu Yihan over the years. To the courtiers, it seemed they coexisted peacefully, and to the public, they appeared as respectful brothers. However, only Chu Mingyuan knew that Chu Yihan was a festering issue in his heart. He had long wished to eliminate it, but Chu Yihan had a tight grip on his lifeline, controlling his every breath and heartbeat, rendering him unable to rid himself of the problem. Thus, he avoided confrontations with Chu Yihan because the timing had not yet arrived. However, the Empress was relentless. Emperor, ninth prince has repeatedly transgressed, and you not only refrain from punishing him but also permit his audacity. He will become even more audacious in the future. As for Su Yingxue, she is emulating the ninth prince. In the future, neither of them will regard you with respect. Empress, why trouble Miss Su? Must everyone attending the birthday banquet prepare a talent? Is it disrespectful not to prepare one? If so, then I have no talents. Would that be disrespectful too? Consort Xiang defended Su Yingxue. Noble Consort Xiao seized the opportunity to chime in. One didn't prepare any talent either. Both of you, shut up. The Empress pointed at Consort Xiang, her anger palpable. Consort Xiang, I know you conspired with Su Yingxue. You are deliberately trying to sabotage my birthday banquet. Your Highness, I wouldn't dare. Consort Xiang responded with composure. Empress, Consort Xiang's argument makes sense. Is it truly a fault not to perform for you? Do you still wish for me to perform to satisfy you? Chu Mingyuan had originally intended to avoid scolding her in public. However, after she scolded Consort Xiang, he couldn't bear to see Consort Xiang endure any injustice. He held Consort Xiang's hand and gently caressed it. Xianger, if you wish to leave early, return to rest. I will visit you after the banquet. Emperor, I am perfectly fine. I will accompany you here, Consort Xiang replied with a gentle smile. Su Yingxue observed this. In contrast to her previous timidity, Consort Xiang was now assertive, not only usurping the Empress' favor but gradually seizing her position from Chu Mingyuan. Emperor. Holding back her tears, the Empress' eyes turned red. Father. Today is Mother's birthday, and Su Yingxue's behavior is indeed disrespectful to Mother. Moreover, before she entered the palace, she told me that she had prepared a talent to present to Mother. Now, by refusing to perform, she may fall behind others. Chapter 209. Have a taste of fists. He countered Su Hao and watched with satisfaction as Chu Yihan's expression grew darker. Su Yingxue wanted to give Chu Qingye 2 tight slaps. Who the hell had pleasant conversations with him? Not to mention that she had no interest in engaging with him now. Even in the past, when had they ever exchanged proper words? Gifts. That was a result of her blindness. Su Yingxue suddenly felt 2 sharp gazes directed at her. She sneakily glanced at Chu Yihan, whose eyes carried a bloodthirsty aura. Her innocent doe-like eyes blinked, and she shook her head, signaling, Your Highness, I didn't. One didn't. Please believe me. However, Chu Yihan didn't believe her and shot her a cold look. Su Yingxue looked up at the sky, exasperated. Her feet ached. Why had she moved such heavy stones to hurt herself in her past life? Forgot it. Emperor, just as 7th Prince said, one did indeed prepare some talents. However, after falling behind others, the performance may not be very exciting. I'm just not sure. Does the Empress wish to see it? Su Yingxue winked playfully. The Empress sneered. Why wouldn't I watch? Su Yingxue, just give me a good performance. To have Su Yingxue perform for her, the Empress had finally scored a point for herself. Su Yingxue smiled sweetly. Then, please forgive me for the crime of delaying you. I forgive you. The Empress responded with a cold smile. Chu Jinling looked at Su Yingxue with concern. Auntie, are you sure you can do this? He had heard that Su Yingxue was utterly inept at music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and dancing. Her knowledge was likely limited to her medical skills, right? Su Yingxue pushed him playfully. Go back and watch carefully. Chu Jinling returned to his seat and discreetly approached Chu Yihan. He was still a bit anxious. Imperial uncle, should you go help Auntie? What if she gets ridiculed later? Chu Yihan leisurely poured himself a glass of wine. Who would dare to ridicule her? The Empress, her sister Su Yuro, and many other madams and young ladies. Anyone who mocks her, ill deal with them. Chu Yihan had always been ruthless. His words sent shivers down Chu Jinling's spine. He hastily retreated to his seat and remained quiet. It was too frightening. Imperial Aunt was incredibly formidable. Imperial Uncle was not to be trifled with. Chu Chengye returned to his seat and downed a gulp of wine. Su Yingxue, since you refuse to submit to me, don't blame me for being ruthless. When Su Yingxue was the only one left in the middle of the cool breeze terrace, she retrieved the red jade soft whip from her waist. Upon seeing the whip, Lin Cece laughed cheerfully. Dr. Su is truly amazing. She definitely won't lag. Wu Ruofei, standing nearby, sneered. Rude and uncouth. She doesn't exhibit a bit of feminine charm. She'll have trouble finding a husband. You speak as if you're going to marry well and better than Dr. Su. Lin Cece rolled her eyes at Wu Ruofei and raised her fist. If you say that again, I'll let you taste my fist. You! Wu Ruofei's petite face wrinkled up in grievance. Su Yuro consoled her. Ruofei, you're going to be my future sister-in-law, so don't fuss about this. When you marry into the Marquis manor, my sister will naturally have to address you as sister-in-law. Wu Ruofei's anger was instantly quelled. Yeah, if she dares not to call me sister-in-law, I'll teach her a lesson. She was delighted. However, the more delighted she became, the more worried Madame Wu grew. Follow current novels on Top Novelful. CM. The Empress looked at her carefully nurtured famous flowers, all shattered by Su Yingxue. Her precious vases were also broken into pieces. She was so angry that her face turned green. Are you celebrating my birthday? You're cursing me. My famous flowers and vases. The Empress' heart was shattered like the porcelain pieces on the ground, scattered in all directions. Su Yingxue's face was filled with innocence. I've said before that my talents are unrefined. It's Empress who insisted on seeing them. You, Su Yingxue. The Empress screamed without regard for her dignity. Su Yingxue, what are you doing? You are too impudent in front of me. Even though Chu Mingyuan admired her medical skills and was more tolerant of her, Chu Mingyuan lost his temper because of her actions. Chapter 211. Peace and Longevity, Imperial Brother. She was indeed paying her respects to the Empress, Chu Yihan remarked, looking at the shattered porcelain pieces in front of Su Yingxue, with a slight curl of his lips. Ninth brother, don't defend her. Chu Mingyuan's face was filled with anger. Whether 1 a.m. defending her or not, Imperial brother, you'll know just by looking at this pile of porcelain pieces. Chu Yihan held his wine glass, appearing nonchalant yet exuding a seductive allure. Chu Mingyuan, holding Consort Xiang, glanced over in confusion. The broken pieces of porcelain in front of Su Yingxue were not placed messily at her feet, but were arranged into a word. Emperor. This forms the character of longevity, Consort Xiang softly explained, leaning into his embrace. Noble Consort Xiao also noticed this and burst into laughter, covering her mouth. Miss Su is truly imaginative. She used so many precious flowers and valuable vases to wish your majesty a longevity. Wow, you're amazing. Chu Jinling clapped enthusiastically. Lin Cece also joined in, saying, Dr. Su's skills are profound. Although she shattered your majesty's flower pots, this longevity character is a sincere offering. Please accept it. Accept? The Empress' eyes widened, almost like copper bells. She wanted nothing more than to vent her fury on Su Yingxue. Your Highness, are you dissatisfied? Should I perform another act for you? Su Yingxue was now very obedient. The Empress nearly lost her composure. Get lost. Stop your performance. If Su Yingxue continued performing, she would bring down the entire Fengzhou Palace. All right. Su Yingxue returned to her seat, appearing aggrieved, like a bullied little girl. She lowered her head, but her eyes sparkled. Wanted to see her perform? It depended on whether the Empress could afford the price. Breaking some flowers and vases this time was just a minor lesson. Let's see who would dare to invite her to perform in the future. Emperor, Empress, I've already presented a birthday celebration to liven up the occasion. I believe Emperor and Empress will keep your word. Su Hao stood up and declared. He was tall and exuded a heroic presence. Chu Mingyuan sighed softly. Very well. Grant her a reward. A reward? Emperor, all these flowers in the palace have been carefully nurtured for years, and she's destroyed them all. The Empress gritted her teeth. She hadn't asked Su Yingxue to compensate for the flowers and losses, but now she was being asked to reward her. Empress, as the mother of our nation, you must show magnanimity. Besides, you decided to watch her perform, Chu Mingyuan reminded coldly. He instructed Lan Ling to present his reward to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue accepted the reward with a smile. Thank you, Emperor. Her smile was radiant, like a starry sky, leaving Lan Ling momentarily entranced. She was truly beautiful. As Lan Ling continued to gaze at Su Yingxue in a daze, the Empress angrily swished her sleeves. Of course, I won't be stingy with my reward. Lu Fu, reward her. The Empress clenched her teeth and had Lu Fu deliver some treasures to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue took advantage of the situation and acted obediently. I wish your majesty a long and prosperous life. While it was intended as a heartfelt birthday greeting, from Su Yingxue's mouth, it carried a touch of sarcasm. The Empress realized she couldn't win against Su Yingxue in these trivial matters, so she had no choice but to endure it. However, she was determined not to let Su Yingxue off the hook. Emperor, I have an important matter to report today. The Empress glanced at Su Hao, her eyes instantly brimming with a sly smile. Chapter 212. Su Yingxue's plan. Chu Mingyuan concealed his slight impatience in his gaze. What's the matter? It's a joyous occasion. The day before yesterday, Madame Wu from Minister Wu's family and Marquis Su came to inform me that their two families intend to arrange a marriage. They seek the Emperor's divine grace to honor their families and bestow the union of young General Su and Miss Wu. The Empress spoke with a hint of sinister satisfaction. She cast a smug glance at Su Yingxue, but to her surprise, Su Yingxue had already left her seat. Madame Wu was also conspicuously absent from her place. Wu Ruofei anxiously clutched her handkerchief, scanning the surroundings. What's happening? The Empress has spoken. Where is mother gone? This was a critical moment for her impending marriage. Why had her mother left? In a corner of Fengzhou Palace, Madame Wu blocked Su Yingxue's path with a stern expression. Su Yingxue, what are your intentions? Su Yingxue blinked her large, innocent eyes. Madame Wu, why would you ask that? I'm here to pay my respects. What intentions could one possibly have? Is Madame Wu perhaps competing with me for a bridal chamber? Miss Su, you're sharp-witted, possess exceptional medical skills, and previously managed to escape unscathed despite breaking my daughter's limbs. Yet now, you oppose her marriage to your brother but address her affectionately as sister-in-law. What are your true intentions? Madame Wu transformed into a hawk, her eyes as sharp as knives as if she wanted to strip Su Yingxue of her skin to reveal her thoughts. Su Yingxue smiled, turned, and entered the washroom. Her voice carried a leisurely tone. One can call her whatever I want. Madame Wu has no say in it. If you don't want your precious daughter to marry into our family, you're free not to agree. Don't even think about it. Su Hao defiled my daughter's purity, and now if he refuses to take responsibility for her, the minister's estate will never consent. Madame Wu declared haughtily. Su Yingxue listened from inside as her footsteps gradually faded away. After she emerged and washed her hands, Zhelan brought her a handkerchief for wiping. She lowered her voice. Miss, Madame Wu left in anger because of you. What if she genuinely refuses to let her daughter marry the eldest young master? Impossible. Wu Ruofei has liked my brother for so long, and the Wu family is determined to elevate themselves to the status of our Marquis Manor. She has no reason to do this. Even if my brother has some hidden ailment, they're still eager to expedite this marriage. Su Yingxue asserted proudly, her gaze directed at a foot in the corner of the wall. She curled her lips, and Jilan immediately chimed in with a cooperative smile. Indeed, our eldest young master is a standout among the elite. Even if he displays a short temper at home and is prone to violence, there's still a long line of ladies eager to marry him. What's that? Su Hao. Madame Wu covered her mouth, finding it hard to believe that Su Hao had such a hidden secret. However, as she recalled Su Hao's relationship with Wu Jinyin, she had a vague suspicion that Su Yingxue might be deceiving her. She leaned against the corner of the wall, listening attentively. Su Yingxue walked towards her and continued. The minister's estate is willing to accept Wu Ruofei. Once she helps Sister Jinyin avert the calamity, my brother can vent his anger on Wu Ruofei and cripple her. Then, he'll be able to treat Sister Jinyin well. After Wu Ruofei is crippled, my brother can marry many noble young ladies. Can Wu Ruofei still have a bright future then? That's right. Mississippi, you're the most thoughtful. After all, it was Wu Ruofei who tarnished her purity and attached herself to our eldest young master. Jilan concurred as she supported Su Yingxue. Madame Wu, upon hearing this, couldn't bear it any longer. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 213. How to bestow a marriage. Su Yingxue happened to walk in front of her and accidentally noticed her. A hint of guilt flashed across her eyes. Madame Wu, what are you doing? Don't tell me. Su Yingxue, you bitch. I heard what you said just now. Madame Wu blushed in anger. Stop, what are you doing? Su Yingxue grabbed her hand and inserted a thin silver needle into Madame Wu's hand. Madame Wu felt a slight pain in her hand, but she didn't pay it any mind. The feeling of anger intensified. She turned around and rushed angrily towards the Cool Breeze terrace. Su Yingxue wiped the silver needles clean and placed them back into the acupuncture bag with a smile. Jilan asked her curiously, Miss, Madame Wu is different from before. She looks so angry. Su Yingxue smiled faintly and said, when she smells the fragrance on Su Yuris' body later, she will be even angrier. She pricked Madame Wu's Baihui acupoint to stimulate her nerves, making her excited. Additionally, Su Yuris' sachet contained Indian and night primrose pollen. When these two types of flowers were ground into powder, they had an even more stimulating effect on one's spirit, making it easier for one to lose control of their emotions. When Madame Wu heard that Su Hao had a hidden illness, she became so agitated that she would undoubtedly go to the Cool Breeze terrace to cause a scene. Su Hao and Wu Ruofei's marriage would certainly be ruined by her. Su Yingxue's series of schemes, even if the imperial physician came to take Madame Wu's pulse, would be undetectable. Jilan was truly impressed. Su Yingxue brought her up to the Cool Breeze terrace. Before they even got close, they could already hear Madame Wu's commotion. My daughter is not marrying. My daughter will never marry a cruel young general. None of you can hurt her. Her eyes were red as she glared at Su Yuro, who stood beside Su Hao, with hatred. Su Yuro panicked and quickly went up to support her. Madame Wu, what are you saying? My brother is gentle and polite. How can he be cruel? Sister Ruofei has always liked my brother's temperament. As soon as she got close, Madame Wu smelled the fragrance in the sachet. She couldn't control her brain and roared, Don't lie to me. If it wasn't for you giving Ruofei a plan to trick her, she's a pure and innocent girl. How could she have done that with your brother? Mother, don't say any more. One like Su Hao, and I want to marry him. Wu Ruofei hurriedly went up to pull her mother back. Su Yuro was so frightened that her face turned pale. At this moment, Su Dingheng had also been called over. When he heard Madame Wu's accusations, his face darkened as he looked at her. She twisted her handkerchief, and before she could think of how to explain it to Su Dingheng, Su Hao scolded her sternly, Su Yuro, it was you who came up with the plan. Although I have never mistreated you like Yingxue, I have never had any conflicts with you. Brother, am innocent. Am your biological sister. Why would I harm you? Su Yuro bit her lip and looked pitiful as she cried. Su Hao had a high status in the army, and her brother Su Jinxian had not been officially conferred yet, so she couldn't openly offend Su Hao. Enough. All of you, shut up. Chu Minjiwan's face darkened as he shouted coldly. This is the Empress Palace. Where do you think we are? Emperor, please forgive me. Su Dingheng shivered and knelt, as did everyone else. Chu Mingyuan looked at the Empress unhappily. This is the happy occasion you mentioned? As the mother of the country, what exactly was going on? Have you understood it yet, and you're here to ask for a bestowal of marriage? How can I bestow this marriage? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 214. Chu Yahan's promise. I was negligent. Please forgive me, Emperor. However, this marriage was disclosed to me by Marquis Su and Madame Wu. One only intended to facilitate matters as they were presented. The Empress gritted her teeth and glared at Madame Wu and her daughter. These two inept individuals managed to make a mistake even after rehearsing the scenario. Regardless of whether Imperial Brother bestows the marriage or not, it's crucial to establish the facts. Su Hao is the grandson of old General Su and the foremost among our dynasty's young generals. His reputation and prestige should not be casually tarnished by anyone. Chu Yihan stood beside Su Hao, his eyes gleaming with an icy resolve. Chu Mingyuan nodded. Ninth brother is correct. He began by questioning Su Hao. Su Hao, do you and Miss Wu share mutual affection? Are both families discussing the marriage? Su Hao stood upright and knelt. His handsome face carried a profound seriousness. Emperor, I am not familiar with Wu Ruofei. However, on the day of the medical dispute, when I regained consciousness, I found Miss Wu in a disheveled state. My father and Lord Wu had rushed over, making it difficult for me to deny the circumstances. As for the marriage, as a general, there is still unrest at the border, and my grandfather has not yet returned. I dare not make a unilateral decision. Chu Minjiwan's brows furrowed slightly. He highly valued Su Hao's martial prowess and abilities, as well as his character. He chose to believe Su Hao's words. However, Wu Ruofei cried out, "It's not like that. Brother Hao treated me that way because he cared for me. I want to marry him. I want to be his wife." Silence. As a young lady from a respectable family, haven't your parents taught you about propriety, righteousness, and integrity? Chu Mingyuan didn't take kindly to Wu Ruofei. How can you aspire to be a general's wife with your current behavior? I will not grant you this marriage. Emperor, Miss Wu is innocent and naive. Her feelings for young General Su are genuine. After all, they have already had physical contact. If young General Su does not decide for Miss Wu, how can she marry in the future? Just because Su Hao is a young general, does that mean he can disregard his responsibilities? The Empress inwardly cursed Wu Ruofei for her foolishness, but had no choice but to speak up on her behalf. Chu Mingyuan found himself in a dilemma. Su Hao, did you truly have physical contact with Miss Wu? Su Hao's expression darkened. I was drugged on that day and don't recall events leading up to it, but one would never violate a woman. 1 a.m. not someone who dares to act but not to admit it. General Su's lack of memory does not provide certainty about his actions or inactions. Rumors among the people cannot be dispelled solely by General Su's words, Chu Chengye deliberately added. Although Chu Chengye had no personal grievances with Su Hao, he was determined not to let the siblings have it easy since Su Yingxue had made things difficult for his mother. Chu Mingyuan acknowledged Chu Chengye's point. Ye's words make sense. If there were no such incident, why would there be rumors among the common people? Emperor, Su Hao is becoming increasingly anxious. I vouch for Su Hao that he did not engage in any inappropriate actions, Chu Yihan stated firmly. Chu Chengye glared at him. Uncle, You didn't witness it firsthand. How can you vouch for him? Because I trust him. Chu Yihan turned to face Chu Chengye, his eyes chillingly sharp, akin to 1,000 blades thrusting at Chu Chengye. Chu Mingyuan also had some misgivings because of Chu Yihan's words. Chu Yihan commanded a substantial military force and held significant prestige within the army. No general in the imperial court would doubt Su Hao if he vouched for him. Furthermore, old General Su, who was far away at the border, would not let Su Hao be wronged. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 215I. Won't let you off so quickly. Just as he was in a dilemma, Su Yingxue suddenly walked forward and knelt. Emperor, I can prove that my brother was indeed drugged at that time. It happened in my clinic. I checked my brother's pulse. He was drugged with an excessive amount of knockout powder and rosemary, which is why he was delirious. What a joke. A dignified young general with deep internal strength would be so easily drugged? When Chu Chengye saw Su Yingxue, he wanted her to submit to him, so he immediately retorted, Your Highness also possesses deep inner strength. Why don't one prepare this incense and let Your Highness try it? Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows. No. Chu Mingyuan intervened. Su Yingxue, don't mess around. Yi is a prince. How can he be your test subject? If you know how to make medicine, one can see if the ninth brother will do such a ridiculous thing. The Empress snorted coldly, wanting to shift the responsibility of testing the medicine to Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue exchanged glances. He didn't mind helping her practice. However, Su Yingxue didn't agree. She said lightly, Brother can't compare to the ninth prince's martial arts. I'm afraid that seventh prince will fall behind by more than 100 streets. The effects of the medicine are not the same. Chu Chengye gritted his teeth and roared, Su Yingxue, are you saying that I am inferior to the ninth imperial uncle? Su Yingxue turned around, her eyes exceptionally innocent. Did your highness think you were much stronger than ninth prince? Chu Yihan's lips curled up imperceptibly. On the other hand, Chu Chengye was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This naked exposure was the stark reality. All right, it's fine if you want to test the medicine, but we need to find out whether Su Hao has defiled Miss Wu's innocence. However, Su Yingxue, your testimony alone is not sufficient. Chu Mingyuan's words were impartial. After all, who wouldn't protect their brother? A shadow of dark determination passed through Su Yingxue's eyes. She glanced at Madame Wu, who knelt nearby. She was firmly held down by the Empress servant girl, and Wu Ruofei was also holding her down at her side. Nevertheless, her eyes were still filled with resentment. Sigh, if my testimony isn't enough, I can only let my elder brother endure and marry Miss Wu, who asked her to cling to my brother so persistently. Su Yingxue sighed helplessly. Who's clinging to him? What if he harms my daughter after marriage? We won't proceed with this marriage. We won't. Madame Wu couldn't contain her anger any longer and struggled to break free. Madame Wu, don't speak nonsense. You came to beg me for this marriage. The Empress wished she could knock some sense into Madame Wu. This fool was wavering between wanting and not wanting the marriage. What was she thinking? Mother, I want to marry brother Su Hao. I'm already his. I won't marry anyone else if not him. Wu Ruofei cried anxiously, her mind buzzing. The corners of Su Yingxue's mouth twitched. Miss Wu, don't speak so affectionately. I'm afraid you've already lost your innocence. Aside from my brother, no one else can falsely accuse you, right? You're the one whose innocence has been ruined. I'm still pure. Wu Ruofei made a bold statement. However, Su Yingxue chuckled. These words contradict each other. Didn't you say earlier that my brother tarnished your innocence? Wu Ruofei couldn't make sense of the situation and covered her mouth in panic. Nonsense. Wu Ruofei, if you dare to falsely accuse an official of the imperial court, I won't spare you. Chu Mingyuan shouted coldly. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 216. Medicine Testing. I don't dare. I was taught by others. Sob, sob, sob. I don't dare, Your Majesty. Wu Ruofei had been pampered since she was young and was quite afraid of Chu Minjiwan's pressure. At this moment, she resembled a frightened sparrow, her small internal organs trembling violently. Who exactly is it that wants to frame my brother and the eldest young master of the Marquis Manor? Su Yingxue shouted, and Wu Ruofei panicked even more. She pointed at Su Yuro in a daze. It's her. It's Su Yu. Sister Ruofei, don't talk nonsense. I treat you as a good friend. You like my brother and have asked me for help many times. But one have also told you that I can't help you with this matter. Now that you have done something wrong, as long as you apologize to my brother is broad-minded, and one believe he won't hold it against you. Su Yuro interrupted her words and spoke eloquently. Wu Ruofei was stunned. Su Yuro was the instigator. So why did it sound like she was the victim and the sinister villain? This situation had already exceeded her brain's capacity. She was stunned and didn't know what was going on. However, as Su Yuro got closer, the fragrance in the sachet stimulated Madame Wu's nerves. She pushed Su Yuro hard and said sternly, You vicious woman. You know that my daughter likes Su Hao, so you instigated her to use her innocence to pester Su Hao. Now, you still want to push the blame onto her? Don't even think about it. Everyone in the Su family is a poisonous snake. Madame Wu's heart surged with anger. She couldn't deal with Su Yingxue, and her daughter was being used by Su Yuro. Now that her daughter's reputation was ruined, she had to take the blame for Su Yuro. They had become stepping stones for the Su family's internal strife. Su Yuro was uneasy and fell onto a piece of broken porcelain just as Madame Wu pushed her. A mark was left on the delicate skin of her palm. She cried weakly and didn't defend herself, but Su Dingheng and Chu Qingye couldn't stand it anymore. Su Dingheng's heart ached as he helped her up. He could no longer care about the benefits he had previously agreed upon with Wu Hongtao. He flared up at Madame Wu. Madame Wu, your minister's estate has gone too far. You ruined my son's innocence, and now you're hurting my daughter. This in-law, my Marquis Manor does not want. Madame Wu has lost her composure in front of father and mother. I'm afraid that she doesn't have the qualifications to marry into the Marquis Manor. Chu Qingye glanced coldly at Wu Ruofei and Madame Wu before reporting to Chu Mingyuan. Father, please help young General Su clear his name and seek justice for Yuro. I will naturally not let loyal officials be wronged. Chu Mingyuan's eyes were deep. As for Su Yuro, he didn't care to look at her anymore. He didn't care to expose the tricks of such a young girl. Su Yingxue, since you know how to concoct medicine, immediately prepare the spices they used at that time. You'll order someone to test the medicine, and we'll be able to recreate the situation at that time. Chu Mingyuan looked at Lan Ling, who was wearing a guard's uniform. Lan Ling, go and cooperate with Su Yingxue to test the medicine. Lan Ling frowned. His abilities were indeed on par with Su Hao's. Even Chu Qingye might not be his match. However, this was the first time he had been treated as a test subject in all his years as a royal guard. But the emperor's orders cannot be disobeyed. Lan Ling could only wait on the side, waiting for Su Yingxue to mix the medicine. Su Yingxue glanced at Lan Ling and felt that he was very innocent. However, compared to proving Su Hao's innocence, she still resolutely went to concoct the medicine. In order to convince everyone, Su Yingxue got Chu Mingyuan to invite a few court physicians over to watch her concoct the medicine. Furthermore, after she had concocted the medicine, she had several court physicians examine it. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 217. Innocent person Feng Hongwan, the head of the Imperial Medical Academy, knelt before Chu Mingyuan and reported, "Emperor, this incense can indeed confuse people. If you burn it, the effect is even stronger. It not only clouds one's judgment, but also has an aphrodisiac effect." Chu Mingyuan nodded and said, "Lan Ling." Lan Ling walked over to a partition behind a screen, where Feng Hongwan was burning incense. Everyone was separated by the screen. After a while, they noticed that Lan Ling appeared somewhat dizzy, his steps unsteady. His rapid breathing became audible. To ensure fairness, Chu Mingyuan even had a palace maid stand with Lan Ling behind the screen. As Lan Ling took a few steps toward the palace maid and touched her skin, a nerve seemed to snap within him, instantly igniting his desire. This medicine is indeed potent. It's no wonder young General Su was affected. Chu Qingye frowned. He couldn't help but feel relieved that it was Su Hao who had been targeted by Wu Ruofei's scheme and not Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue could only belong to him. Standing beside Chu Yihan, Su Yingxue clenched her fists. Chu Yihan noticed her troubled expression and asked, "Are you worried about Lan Ling?" She replied firmly, "He is innocent." Su Yingxue bit her lip, believing that Chu Qingye should have been the one testing the medicine, not an innocent person. Chu Yihan remained expressionless. In his heart, no one was truly innocent. When Lan Ling tried to approach the palace maid, she screamed, "Guard Lan, don't come over." Chu Mingyuan was about to order someone to intervene, but then he saw Lan Ling pull out a knife and stab it into his thigh. Blood splattered onto the screen, and many women cried out in fear. After wounding himself, Lan Ling regained his senses. He approached Chu Mingyuan with a pale face, kneeling on his uninjured leg, and quietly reported, "Emperor, this incense's effects are intense. I couldn't control myself. If it is said that young General Su was bewitched by this medicine, it should be considered credible." "Very well, go and tend to your injuries," Chu Mingyuan said, satisfied with Lan Ling's performance and testimony, waving him away. As Lan Ling departed, he passed by Su Yingxue. Seeing her looking at him with concern, he suddenly felt that the wound on his leg wasn't as painful. Su Yingxue remained unconvinced by Lan Ling's injury, but Su Hao's innocence was sufficient proof. She looked up at Chu Mingyuan and stated, "Emperor, this can prove that my brother is innocent. He shouldn't be held responsible for the actions of the person who framed him." "Of course," Chu Mingyuan affirmed. Turning his cold gaze to Wu Ruofei, he continued, "As the daughter of a noble family, your thoughts are so impure." "Not only will I not grant you marriage, but I also won't allow you to marry into any noble households, for fear that you'll tarnish the royal family's reputation. Emperor, please reconsider. I love Su Hao, and I want to marry him." Wu Ruofei failed to grasp the gravity of the situation and continued to cry out for Su Hao. Her mother, Madame Wu, was shocked beyond belief. Chu Mingyuan's punishment for Wu Ruofei was akin to a life sentence. Their family held a prominent position as part of the minister's estate. Wu Ruofei was unlikely to marry into any prestigious family now, thanks to Chu Mingyuan's decree. Even low-ranking officials would be reluctant to accept her. In this lifetime, she could only marry into merchant families or smaller households and lead a modest life. "Emperor, this is unfair. My daughter was manipulated by someone, and the one who manipulated her was Su Yuro. Why hasn't the emperor punished her?" Madame Wu had suffered a heavy blow. At this moment, she could not care less about anything else and kept telling the truth. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 218. Su Hao can decide his own marriage. Su Yuro didn't utter a single word in her defense. Instead, she let out feeble cries. Su Dinghe and Chu Qingye wished they could envelop her in their arms. Su Dinghe was particularly infuriated with Madame Wu. Do you have any evidence to support such a slanderous claim against my daughter? If you don't, then refrain from making baseless accusations. What do you mean by no evidence? Madame Wu retorted. While she may not have directly interacted with Ruofei, she has frequented the minister's estate numerous times. Ruofei's maidservants can all vouch for this. Su Yuro clutched her handkerchief nervously. She had no immediate solution to this predicament, so she resorted to whimpering in front of Chu Chengya. Your Highness, I'm truly terrified. Please, Your Highness, help me and spare me from further slander. She was staking her position in Chu Chengya's heart. Chu Chengya felt a sense of compassion towards her. Moreover, he noticed that when she cried, her pure eyes bore a resemblance to Su Yingshu's. He spoke up, Father, today is Mother's birthday celebration. The Wu family has disrupted the event. We should escort them out of the palace to prevent any disturbance to Mother's mood. Chu Mingyuan stroked his beard, agreeing. Year is correct. Wu Ruofei and her mother were expelled from the palace. Chu Mingyuan, in particular, rewarded Su Hao generously. Su Hao, you've endured undeserved hardship today. I hereby appoint you as the 5th-rank general of Ningyuan. In addition to your role as the instructor of the City Defense Army, you shall also receive the Silver Moon Spear as a reward. Su Hao knelt and expressed his gratitude. Thank you for your benevolence, Your Majesty. However, one humbly request one more favor from Your Majesty. Is there something else that troubles you? Chu Mingyuan asked, mildly surprised. Su Hao had always been composed, not one to seek favors. Su Hao maintained his posture as he replied, One have no grievances, Your Majesty. I only seek your promise to allow me the autonomy to choose my marriage partner, free from parental arrangements. I wish to have the final say in my marital matters and not be coerced by others. Chu Mingyuan arched an eyebrow, finding the request intriguing. He glanced at Su Dingheng with a meaningful look, causing Su Dingheng to blush with embarrassment. Su Hao had openly delivered a resounding slap to his father. Yet, Su Dingheng lacked talents in both scholarly pursuits and martial arts. Besides his noble title, he held only a ceremonial civil position. Now, with the family's honor upheld by Su Hao, he had no power to oppose his headstrong son. Young General Su may have someone in his heart, but there seem to be certain obstacles he cannot overcome, such as today's schemes, noble consort Xiao cheerfully remarked. Su Hao remained silent, neither confirming nor denying her statement. Emperor, you've granted my brother an official title and a spear. Would you mind bestowing one more reward? Su Yingxue asked, capitalizing on the opportunity before Chu Mingyuan. Chu Mingyuan felt Consort Xiang holding his hand in his sleeve. He exchanged a smile with Consort Xiang and declared, Very well, I grant your request. You may decide your marriage. When you are ready to wed, come and seek an imperial decree from me. No one shall coerce you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Su Hao exclaimed with excitement. A heavy burden was lifted from his heart. Throughout the entire birthday banquet, Su Yingxue stole the limelight, while Su Hao reaped the benefits. Others offered their congratulations to the siblings. Lin Sisi also approached and raised her glass to toast Su Hao. Young General, you're truly remarkable. Whether or not you have a lady in your heart, one wish you a bright future. Su Hao couldn't help but smile. So is Miss Lin. Oh my, General Su is willing to converse with me. That's splendid. Since I can't become the 9th prince's disciple, well, General Su, how about I become your disciple first and practice with you? Lin Sisi's eyes sparkled. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 219. Working together to deal with Su Yingxue. Su Hao politely agreed with her. Su Yingxue didn't get involved in their exchange. She ran to Chu Yihan's table and squatted down obediently. Thank you, Your Highness, for vouching for my brother today. Yes, Chu Yihan let out a nasal voice, which carried a strong and sexy aura. Su Yingxue felt as if half of her heart had melted. Oh my God! Imperial Uncle was so tempting. Besides, there was no other living thing here besides her. Even mosquitoes did not dare to get close to him. Su Yingxue felt that his figure was rather lonely, but when she looked at him at such a close distance, she felt that it was a blissful thing for her to enjoy his beautiful face alone. Tisk, Tiske. Our love is so deep that we can't bear to part for a moment. Chu Jinling picked up a pen and started writing furiously on the table. He was writing the love scene between Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan. His face was almost red. A Your Highness who was as cold as an ice mountain all year round, a quick-witted and moving daughter of the Marquis Manor, it would be a good story even if it wasn't written. Moreover, after he wrote this for the first time, Chu Jinling felt that he could write a book that would leave a legacy. The banquet was still lively. Even if the Empress' face was swollen from the slap today, she still smiled and agreed. Chu Mingyuan did not scold her in front of everyone, but in front of her, he asked about Consort Xiang's well-being. Noble Consort Xiao, who was at the side, did not care about this matter, but the Empress' heart was being stabbed until it bled. Beside her, Chu Qingye was not much better. He wanted to talk to Su Yingxue, but Su Yingxue did not give him any face at all. He wanted to question Su Yingxue fiercely. What exactly was her relationship with his imperial uncle? Why was she always favored by his imperial uncle? Did she take a fancy to imperial uncle's power and influence, so she gave all her previous attitude to him to imperial uncle? He was furious. He felt injustice. Your Highness, thank you for helping Ruer out of this predicament today. This is the tea that Ruer personally brewed. Your Highness, have a taste. Ruer's sincerity is all here. Su Yuro blushed shyly. Her slender fingers held the white jade teacup. Under the contrast of the jade color, her skin became smoother and more tender like snow. However, Chu Qingye was not in the mood to look at her. He took a sip of tea perfunctorily and commented, "Not bad." After saying that, he absent-mindedly returned to his seat. Su Yuro saw his gaze and looked at Su Yingxue again. She was almost scalded by the remaining tea. Su Yingxue. She bit her lip angrily. You vixen. He even seduced her seventh prince. You're both women, but Su Yingxue is much more powerful than you now, the man said faintly, and there was a hint of sympathy in his tone. Su Yuro suddenly turned around and saw Chu Xiuwen in the wheelchair. She frowned slightly. Your Highness, are you here to mock me? I'm mocking you to let you know that if you don't attack, my seventh brother's thoughts will completely fly away from you. His face was filled with evil. Does your Highness have any good ideas? Su Yuro's eyes shifted. She knew that Chu Xiuwen was not a person who spoke too much. I will lead Su Yingxue to a side room. As for how to let others discover her, it will depend on your ability. After Chu Xiuwen finished speaking, he asked someone to push him away. Su Yuro's lips curled up into a scheming smile. Su Yingxue, go to hell. Su Yingxue did not dare to stay in front of Chu Yihan in public. She wanted to find Lan Ling and give him some good medicine to heal his injuries. But halfway through, she was stopped by a palace maid. Miss Su, Consort Xiang is not feeling well. Please go over and take a look. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 220. Su Yingxue has fallen into my hands. Su Yingxue's eyes were filled with vigilance. She took 2 steps back and saw that Consort Xiang was indeed not on the cool breeze terrace. However, she turned around and looked at this unfamiliar palace maid. Consort Xiang's maid is Xiang Ling. Why did she send you here? Sister Xiang Ling naturally has to stay by your majesty's side. I am a first-class palace maid that eunuch Qin assigned to serve the empress after he left. Her clothes were indeed more appropriate than ordinary palace maids. Su Yingxue thought that Consort Xiang was not a flamboyant person, so she followed her to the side room. On the cool breeze terrace, Chu Jinling was about to show Chu Yihan the manuscript he had written when he noticed that his imperial uncle had just stood up and left. His mother was still here, so he couldn't follow in imperial uncle's footsteps. Placing his hands on the table and supporting his head, Chu Jinling sighed. Imperial uncle is amazing. He could come and go as he pleased. Even his father could not do anything to him. Fengzhou Palace had prepared a side room for guests, and it was not far from the Cool Breeze Terrace. Therefore, Su Yingxue did not go far. However, the servant girl pushed open the door for her. The moment she entered, she was hit hard on the back of her head. Before she could make a sound, she fell to the ground. Chu Xiuwen pushed the wheelchair out, his devilish face carrying a lustful smile. He lifted a lock of Su Yingxue's hair and smiled sinisterly. Su Yingxue, if you fall into my hands, don't even think about living like a human for the rest of your life. Since she dared to go against Chu Xiuwen, he would make her pay the price for her life. Chu Xia led them into Chu Ziyuan's room and turned around to inform Su Yuro. The corners of Su Yuro's mouth curled up. In a secluded place with no one around, she splashed some tea on her body, then used rouge to make some red marks on her face. She squeezed out a few drops of tears and ran towards the Cool Breeze Terrace while crying. She was dressed in a white dress, and when she jogged, she looked like a dancing butterfly, attracting the attention of many people. She walked in front of Su Dingheng. Even though she had yet to say a word, her tear-stained face already made Su Dingheng's heart ache. He asked her anxiously, "Ruer, what's wrong with you?" "Father, it's all my fault. I angered sister, so sister." Although Su Yuro's crying voice was soft, it was enough for people to hear the word sister. All the women started to discuss animatedly, what happened to Su Yingxue again? It looks like she bullied his sister, Miss Yuro. What nonsense are you talking about? Dr. Su would never bully people. It's Su Yuro who's deliberately being pretentious. Lin Cece put her hands on her hips and roared, full of momentum. No one dared to refute Lin Cece, but they started discussing more behind her back. Su Dingheng snorted coldly. This unfilial daughter only knows how to go against me. She has also bullied Ruer many times. After refuting Lin Cece, he helped Su Yuro up. Forget it, Ruer. You're magnanimous. Don't be calculative with her. After you bring her back to the residence, 111 help you. Thank you, father. Ruer is fine, but I'm worried about sister. After she quarreled with Ruer, there were many complaints about her words. Moreover, the palace was so big. Ruer was afraid that sister would get lost. Father should go with Ruer to look for sister. Su Yuro's eyes were filled with concern. Her eyes were filled with concern for Su Yingxue. What a good sister. How did he end up with a sister like Su Yingxue? There was a noble daughter who was jealous of Su Yingxue who felt injustice for her. Lin Cece glared at him fiercely. Try scolding Dr. Su again. Everyone in Jiangdu City knew about Lin Cece's bad temper, and that woman didn't dare to argue with her anymore. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 221. Trick. Lin Cece's loud voice soon reached the ears of Chu Mingyuan and the Empress. When the Empress saw Su Yuro running over, she knew it had something to do with Su Yingxue. She deliberately asked, "What exactly happened?" Su Yuro was summoned to them and cried. She told them delicately and tearfully that she argued with Su Yingxue. She didn't know where Su Yingxue had gone. She was worried, so she wanted to look for Su Yingxue. This was a family matter, and Su Dingheng didn't want to make a big deal out of it. After all, the people from Marquis of Marshall South's manor had caused enough trouble in the imperial palace. He didn't want Su Yingxue to cause any more problems. But Chu Qingye seemed particularly worried. "Yuro, you said she ran away. Where did she run off to? Fengzhou Palace is not small, and she doesn't know the way. What if?" Chu Qingye recalled that his third brother was still recuperating in Fengzhou Palace. His third brother had a vicious personality and had long held a grudge against Su Yingxue. He could take revenge at this moment. Su Yuro's eyes betrayed a hint of hidden resentment, but she bit her lip and said, "I don't know where sister has run off to. It's just as your highness said, I'm worried about her. So one hope your highness can help me find her. All right, I'll go with you. Chu Qingye immediately agreed. The empress noticed the scheming look in Su Yingshi's eyes, but she waved her hand and said, wait, since the incident happened in Fengzhou Palace, I am duty-bound. I'll go with you to find her. Su Yingshi's medical skills are exceptional. If anything happens in my palace, I don't want to bear this responsibility. Oh? Su Yingxue ran off in a huff. Was it worth it for the empress to personally go and find her? Having spent many years in the palace, noble consort Xiao could easily discern the tricks at play here. The more people went to look for Su Yingxue, the more intricate the design behind it seemed. Chu Mingyuan also frowned slightly. Empress, their quarrel is just a matter between young girls. There's no need for you to personally go and find her. The empress was eager for Su Yingxue to get into trouble. She wouldn't let go of any opportunity to embarrass her. She bowed to Chu Mingyuan and said seriously, Emperor, Su Yingshi's status is different. She is both the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Mana and a genius doctor. Today, she came to celebrate my birthday. If anything happened to her in my palace, as the mother of the nation, one would inevitably be ridiculed. One need to see her safe with my own eyes before I can rest assured. She had pushed the conversation to this extent, even bringing in the face of the nation's mother, making it difficult for Chu Mingyuan to intervene. He thought for a moment. All right, go ahead. The empress' lips curled up as she led a group of people in a mighty procession to search in Fengzhou Palace. Noble consort Xiao gave Chu Jinling a look and called him to her side. She asked him, Do you know where Miss Su went? Chu Jinling shook his head. I don't know, but don't worry, mother. Earlier, one noticed that Imperial Uncle had also gone out. My little Imperial Aunt is brilliant. She will definitely not have anything happen in Fengzhou Palace. Noble consort Xiao pinched the tip of his nose and said dotingly, You, truly a clever little imp. You've already called Imperial Aunt so early. Of course. Chu Jinling was pleased with himself. Whether he called early or late, he had to call eventually. Why not call a little earlier and gather more material from the two of them? Noble consort Xiao caressed her meticulously maintained nails and felt that it was a pity. Su Yingxue was such an intelligent woman. If she married into the Xiao family, how good would that be? The empress, accompanied by a group of people, wandered through Fengzhou Palace. Not finding Su Yingxue, they finally arrived at the wing, in front of Chu Ziyuan's room. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 222. Being framed at the door, some lascivious sounds came from inside. Su Yuro pointed at the ground and screamed, Isn't this Sister's sachet? Could she be inside? Everyone was momentarily stunned. Su Dingheng's face turned green. The empress' expression was cold, but she was mocking Su Yingxue in her heart. She thought, what does her aloofness amount to in the end? Wouldn't she end up as my son's plaything? She couldn't help but want Su Yingshi's reputation to be ruined, and she even wanted her to be humiliated and executed. My Xiuan is still recuperating and Su Yingxue actually seduced him behind the scenes. Su Dingheng, is this the well-behaved daughter you taught? The empress scolded Su Dingheng with a displeased expression. Su Dingheng quickly knelt and found it hard to explain. One didn't expect it to be like this. This disobedient daughter was usually defiant and unfilial at home, but now she had done such a shameful thing. Empress, please forgive me. Forgive you? Marquis Su, whether your sin is forgiven or not, the emperor will decide. Lu Fu, go and invite the emperor over. Tell him that Su Yingxue seduced the prince and asked for the emperor's judgment. Yes, I obey. Lu Fu swayed his chubby body and headed to the cool breeze terrace. Chu Mingyuan quickly rushed over, accompanied by Consort Xiang and noble Consort Xiao. Su Hao and Lin Sisi also hurried over. Su Hao furrowed his brow tightly, and Lin Sisi came over and said, You despicable people, you're scheming against Dr. Su again. Especially you, Su Yuro. You must have framed Dr. Su. As she spoke, she pounced towards Su Yuro. This punch of hers could smash a hole in Su Yuro's body. Presumptuous. Don't you dare touch her. Chu Chengye stood in front of Su Yuro and took the brunt of Lin Cici's attack. He pushed her back with a palm. His eyes carried a cold malice. If Su Yingxue is willing to degenerate, what does it have to do with Ruer? Although he said that, his heart was already filled with anger. He thought, Su Yingxue, was she that impatient? Even if she wanted to pursue a prince, why choose his third brother instead of him? Oh, seventh prince, you're talking as if the door is already open. How do you know that the person inside was definitely Honorable Miss Su? Noble Consort Xiao raised her eyebrows and laughed, her tone full of disdain. If it wasn't her, would there be anyone else who would be so promiscuous? The Empress waved her hand angrily. Su Yingxue, you've done such a shameless thing. Get the hell out here. The person inside didn't respond, but the woman's voice became more and more miserable. From the sounds of pleasure, it turned into mournful cries, each more heart-wrenching than the last. Su Hao couldn't hold back the surge in his heart and was about to break the door. Sister, Master, don't be agitated. What if it's not Dr. Su? Lin Cici pulled Su Hao back. She felt that something was amiss. Enough, Empress. Is this something glorious? Xiuan is still recovering from his injuries. Have your people bring them both out. Chu Mingjiwan's face was gloomy, and anger had spread from his heart to his face. Emperor, Su Yingxue is shameless, seducing Xiuan. Please punish her severely. Once I drag her out, execute her immediately. The Empress' gaze was vicious. She was determined to kill Su Yingxue as soon as possible. Emperor, please investigate. My sister is not such a person. If she's being framed. Su Hao was extremely worried. Emperor, one have failed in teaching my daughter. If my daughter has indeed behaved improperly, please punish her. One have no complaints. Su Dingheng quickly distanced himself. To him, Su Yingxue was like a time bomb that could explode in his mind at any time. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 223. Inversion. If the Empress wanted to get rid of her, he could live an extra 2 years. Father, isn't she your daughter? Su Hao gritted his teeth. His eyes filled with extreme disappointment. She did such a thing herself. What does she expect me to do for her? Su Dingheng's face was thick. He only wanted a worry-free daughter like Su Yuro, not someone like Su Yingxue. He couldn't be bothered to waste his energy. Oh? What heinous deed have I committed to make father so angry with me? Su Yingxue walked out from the corner. She held the red jade soft whip in her hand, and her pair of clear and intelligent eyes turned slyly like a little deer with fox eyes. Su Yingxue, the Empress almost staggered backward. She thought, wasn't she supposed to be in the room? Su Yuro looked as if she had seen a ghost. Sister, aren't you deceived by Chu Xiuan? She thought. How could she appear perfectly fine? What was Chu Xiuan doing? Please spare me. Your Highness, help. In the room, the woman's screams became more and more shrill. When Chu Mingyuan saw that Su Yingxue was unharmed, his face darkened. He immediately slapped the Empress. This is your management of the harem. You've lost all face. Emperor, don't be angry. One didn't know what happened inside. Perhaps someone had framed Xiuan. He's your beloved son. Empress clung to Chu Mingyuan's thigh. Chu Mingyuan could be disappointed in her and ignore her, but he couldn't be disappointed in Chu Xiuan, whether it's a frame-up or not. Well, no, once the door is opened, right? I have just arrived and don't know what happened inside. Everyone is here to watch the show. Su Yingxue's voice was crisp and clear. Her intelligent eyes turned around, revealing a charming charm amidst her purity. Lin Cici held her arm and shouted loudly, "This is the third prince's wing. There's a woman inside. Your sister just accused you and said that you seduced the third prince." Really? Su Yingxue held her heart and looked heartbroken. Yuro, one didn't expect you to talk behind my back. And now you're openly accusing me like this. I even thought of pleading for you, hoping you could marry the seventh prince sooner. I didn't. Sister, don't talk nonsense. Su Yura's face turned red and then pale. With Su Yingshi's unfounded accusations, all the officials and noblewomen's disdainful eyes fell upon her. She and Chu Chengya had feelings for each other. Although it was obvious to everyone, it was a different story after this little revelation, especially Chu Chengya, who felt extremely uncomfortable when he heard this. Su Yingxue, don't spread baseless rumors. It's not up to you to decide my marriage. When the bystanders heard this, they felt that Chu Chengya was trying to defend his innocence. When Su Yuro heard this, with her subtle insight, deduced that Chu Chengya didn't want to marry her, which was why he spoke so. Does he really have feelings for Su Yingxue? Su Yuro fell heavily to the ground. Her face turned pale. Enough. None of the Su family's daughters are worthy of marrying a prince. All of you get lost. The Empress, having brought trouble upon herself, now had to bear the consequences. When she saw Su Yingxue and her sister, she harbored thoughts of killing them both. Your Highness, the door hasn't opened yet. It's not appropriate for us to leave now, right? What if there was a noble young lady inside who was taken advantage of by the third prince but could not get a status? When Su Yingxue said this, all the madams and noblewomen anxiously went to look for their daughters. They were afraid that one of them might have been violated by Chu Xiuwen. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 225. Don't frame your sister. Seeing how intelligent Su Yingxue was, Su Dingheng still had to say a few words to comfort her. Su Hao's eyes were cold. If father really wants to protect sister, what difference does it make whether it's in the palace or not? There is indeed a difference. Although father is a minister, he is ultimately a servant of the imperial family. If he offends the emperor, I'm afraid our entire Marquis manor will be implicated. Su Yuro defended Su Dingheng in a coquettish manner. Su Dingheng looked at her gratifiedly, then turned back to face Su Hao and Su Yingxue. Ruer is right. The two of you should understand and be considerate. Su Hao disdainfully refrained from saying more. However, Su Yingxue smiled. Understand. I will definitely understand. However, Miss Lin said that I was the one who created the red mark on my sister's face? Su Yuro was stunned for a moment. The red marks on her face were rouge, just to attract attention. Now that the crowd had dispersed, how could she cover up her lie in front of Su Yingxue? After much thought, she had to reluctantly admit, Sister, it's all my fault. If you must lay hands on me to vent your anger, I will not complain. That's what you said. Su Yingxue blinked. Su Yuro thought that she was being sarcastic. Unexpectedly, Su Yingxue raised her hand and slapped her. Smack. A crisp and loud sound. Su Yuro was stunned. Sister? What's wrong? Not painful enough. Want me to relieve my anger more? Good. Su Yingxue backhandedly delivered another slap, causing the side of her face that wasn't painted with rouge to swell up. At this moment, Su Yuro's face was symmetrically red. Ignoring the astonishment of both her and Su Dingheng, Su Yingxue directly left with Su Hao and Lin Cixi. Su Yuro's face burned with pain. She then remembered to cry. Sob. It hurts. You, don't frame your sister in public again. Su Dingheng reprimanded her and left with his hands behind his back. Although his heart ached for Su Yuro and he hated Su Yingxue, the Marquis Manor's reputation was still the most important. He could ignore his daughter, Su Yingxue, in public, but he couldn't indulge Su Yuro time and time again. Su Yuro was left alone in the palace, and the sense of helplessness overwhelmed her. She covered her mouth and cried. She dared not let others see her embarrassment, so she could only hide in a corner and cry. Her long nails dug hard into the wall, and the hatred in her eyes was like a sharp blade. Su Yingxue, I don't believe that you'll always be so lucky. After walking out of Fengzhou Palace, Lin Sisi couldn't help but ask Su Yingxue, Dr. Su, tell me quickly, what's the story behind the plot involving the third prince and Su Yuro? How did you perceive it? She felt that Su Yingxue's experience was even more exciting than the book written by Chu Jinling. Su Yingxue flicked her hair and briefly explained to her. When Chu Xia came to find her, she had already noticed that she was Chu Ziyuan's maidservant, because there was a faint smell of blood on her and the scent of golden wound medicine. In this palace, the only injured master was Chu Xiuwen. She pretended to believe, followed Chu Xia to Chu Ziyuan's wing, and pretended to be knocked unconscious by Chu Xiuwen. When Chu Xiuwen revealed his intentions, she opened her eyes. She still remembered Chu Ziyuan's gaze as if he had seen a ghost. You, Su Yingxue, how could you? How could I not faint? You hit me hard just now. Su Yingxue smiled. She took out the pulse pillow from the back of her clothes and directly smashed it onto Chu Ziyuan's face. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 226. Send healing medicine to Lan Ling. Chu Ziyuan's face turned livid with anger. Su Yingxue, you're outrageous. She can be even more outrageous. Chu Xiuwen trembled violently in his wheelchair when he heard Chu Yuhan's voice. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes. Your Highness, are you here to prevent me from dealing with your nephew? I'm just here to see if you need my help, Chu Yuhan said calmly. However, his appearance was like a disaster for Chu Xiuwen. He wasn't afraid of falling into Su Yingxue's hands, but in Chu Yuhan's hands. Even if Chu Yuhan took his life, his father wouldn't be able to avenge him. Imperial uncle, I'm the prince of the current dynasty. You can't. Chu Xiuwen pushed the wheelchair back, sweating profusely. Chu Yuhan ignored him and asked Su Yingxue, how do you want to punish him? Su Yingxue held her chin and thought for a moment. Let's proceed according to the third prince's original plan. He had initially wanted to take advantage of her, defile her innocence, and let her be despised by everyone. At this moment, she decided to repay him with his plan. Su Yingxue stuffed a handful of the remaining rosemary that she used for the experiment into Chu Ziyuan's mouth and even threw a handful into the incense burner. Chu Yuhan considerately lit the incense for her. Chu Xiuwen widened his eyes in fear. You guys. Su Yingxue requested Chu Yuhan to bring Chu Xia and throw her onto Chu Ziyuan's bed. As she left, Su Yingxue whipped Chu Xiuwen 3 times and sneered, Third Prince, consider this payback. Remember, I, Su Yingxue, am a person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Dare to harm even a single strand of her hair, and she would leave him with bloody wounds. Sister, let's get on the carriage. When they reached the palace gate, Su Hao reminded Su Yingxue. Lin Sisi had already returned to her carriage. Su Yingxue still had one thing on her mind, so she said to Su Hao, brother, you can go back first. I'll return to the residence later. If it was in the past, Su Hao would definitely not ask too much. But this time, he stopped Su Yingxue. Are you going to find the 9th prince? Sister, this is the imperial palace. For the sake of reputation, it's better to keep some distance from His Highness. Today, Su Yingxue was protected by Chu Yuhan, and Chu Yuhan had vouched for him. He was very grateful to Chu Yuhan, but he had always thought that it was better not to be too close before something happened between his sister and Chu Yuhan. After all, that man was none other than the 9th prince, renowned throughout the 9 continents, and hailed as the god of war in the entire Great Qing dynasty. Brother, I just wanted to send some healing medicine to guard Lan. I shouldn't have harmed him today during the medicinal testing. Su Yingxue's eyes were clear. When Su Hao heard her say this, he didn't stop her anymore. It was a good thing that Su Yingxue had a clear distinction between gratitude and hatred and was kind-hearted. Su Hao got on the carriage and returned to the residence while Su Yingxue secretly sneaked to where Lan Ling lived. Lan Ling came out of the palace guard's residence to meet her after he was informed. He was born into a noble family, and with his formidable martial arts skills, he exuded a cold and aloof demeanor. Under the sunlight, His handsome face carried a hint of icy tension. "What's the matter, Miss Sue? I came to deliver some healing medicine to you. Thanks to your participation in the medicinal testing today, it proved my brother's innocence." Su Yingxue handed the medicine over with both hands, her eyes sincere. Lan Ling instinctively wanted to refuse. As the Imperial Guard captain, he never interacted with any officials in the court and was Chu Mingyuan's most loyal guard. However, the watery light in Su Yingxue's eyes was exceptionally captivating. His heart skipped a beat. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 227. Have ulterior motives towards him. Seeing his hesitation, Su Yingxue smiled and said, "Is Guard Lan afraid that others will find out that you accepted bribes and can't explain it in front of the Emperor?" Lan Ling turned his face to the side and hummed in agreement. "Then I'll leave the medicine here. If Guard Lan wants it, feel free to take it. If not, let the palace attendants collect it." Su Yingxue placed the 2 bottles of golden wound medicine at Lan Ling's feet and said before she left, "The golden wound medicine is made from blood-clotting grass and has an excellent healing effect." She had already walked far away, but her voice lingered in Lan Ling's mind. He bent down to pick up the medicine. The wound on his leg was still bleeding, but what concerned him more was, "Su Yingxue, are you genuinely kind and concerned about me?" "It's fake." Little Ginseng's voice sounded in Su Yingxue's mind. Su Yingxue was surprised. "You're awake?" It hadn't appeared for such a long time, and she thought that this fellow was no longer in her consciousness. Little Ginseng floated up with a tuft of whisker on its head, looking annoyed. "You still have the nerve to say that. If you hadn't plucked my precious whisker, would I have needed such a long recovery? You almost killed me. You're full of energy now. There's nothing wrong with you at all." "I'm relieved." Su Yingxue patted her chest. When she heard little Ginseng getting worked up in her mind, she felt much more at ease. "I can't stand you lying to such a pure and handsome brother, so I jumped out to teach you a lesson." Little Ginseng expressed disdain. "How did one lie to him? I was just giving him some medicine, and I owed him a favor." Su Yingxue did not think much of it. "Do you dare to say that you have no intentions towards him?" These ancient eyes of little Ginseng had seen through many things. "I do have some motives. My mother's death is related to the Empress. Lan Ling is the Emperor's most loyal palace guard. He might know something, and by befriending him, I might find out something as well." Su Yingxue didn't hide her plan from little Ginseng. That little brother will fall for you sooner or later." This was what little Ginseng despised. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes. "Do you think everyone is like you? You only like one face?" She didn't take little Ginseng's words to heart at all. She never thought in the years to come she would feel guilty for Lan Ling's death. In the imperial study, Chu Mingyuan and Chu Yihan were at daggers drawn, and the atmosphere in the hall dropped to freezing point. After Chu Mingyuan ascended the throne, he rarely spent time alone with Chu Yihan. He knew that the two of them no longer had any brotherhood. However, today's events gave him a sense of imminent danger. Today, you colluded with Su Yingxue to tarnish Ziyuan's reputation. Although he is not without fault, I have to punish him. Starting from my prince. Chu Yihan, are you unable to hold it in anymore? Chu Mingyuan questioned sternly. Imperial brother is worrying too much. There was no emotion in Chu Yihan's voice. His meticulously crafted face, akin to that of a deity, remained perennially cold. However, his indifference and disregard further infuriated Chu Mingyuan. He slammed the table heavily. "Chu Yihan, don't give me that indifferent look. Do you think I don't know you want this throne? What I want has never been unattainable." Chu Yihan's eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty cold light. "You, insolent." Chu Mingyuan's face was livid with anger. The scenes before he ascended the throne all appeared in his mind. "The prince I favor most is Yihan. But father, I am the crown prince you appointed." Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 228. Chu Yuhan's untouchable bottom line. If you ascend to the throne, you can ensure the stability of the royal court. Only by having Hainer succeed to the throne can the great Qing dynasty unify the 9 provinces for thousands of generations. Father, is this the first time Imperial Brother has seen me being impudent? Chu Yihan had never shown his arrogance in front of outsiders, and now appeared proud. In front of Chu Mingyuan, he seemed to be looking down on him, as if he wanted to strip away all the imperial authority of Emperor Chu Mingyuan. I'm telling you, even if you have ambition, you will only be a rebellious traitor who usurps the throne. Chu Mingyuan's face turned red as he shouted angrily. I will return these words to Imperial Brother. Chu Yihan's tone was cold. He left immediately after he finished speaking, not needing Chu Mingyuan's permission at all. He had always been a looming threat in Chu Mingyuan's heart. When he started to act presumptuously, Chu Mingyuan felt a strong sense of danger. He waved his hand and smashed all the memorials on the table. After Su Yingxue delivered the medicine to Lan Ling, she had no reason to stay in the palace anymore. However, as she walked around the palace gate, even the palace guard who was on duty came up and joked, Miss Su, are you taking a stroll at the palace gate? Su Yingxue replied with a fake smile, yes. She wanted to wait until Chu Yihan came out. Not long after, Chu Yihan came out. He was riding a horse and holding the Qingfeng sword. He didn't look like he was in the palace at all. Instead, he looked like he was taking a stroll in the courtyard of the prince's mansion. He rode past Su Yingxue and reached out to pull her onto the horse. The palace guard who had joked with Su Yingxue just now rubbed his eyes. Su Yingxue had disappeared into thin air just like that? Chu Yihan's hands tightly embraced Su Yingxue's waist. If it wasn't for his gloomy expression, Su Yingxue would have thought that he was afraid that she would fall. However, Chu Yihan's arm tightened more and more. Su Yingxue bit her lip and reminded him, Your Highness, my waist is not made of iron. If he exerted more force, she, as a doctor, would have to rest in bed. Upon hearing this, Chu Yihan loosened his grip on her, but still held her in his arms, and his expression remained unchanged. Su Yingxue tentatively asked, Your Highness, did something unpleasant happen between you and the Emperor? Chu Yihan's entire body released a chill. Su Yingxue felt that the air in front of her had thinned. She seemed to have touched a certain untouchable nerve on his body. You want to see Lan Ling just now? Chu Yihan's voice was as cold as ice. Su Yingxue was somewhat incredulous. How did Your Highness know? She only went to deliver the medicine to Lan Ling, said a few words, and didn't linger much. This was something Chu Mingyuan might not even care about, but Chu Yihan knew about it just after coming out of the palace? He had spies in the palace? Or was he extremely powerful? A wave of fear immediately surged out from the bottom of Su Yingxue's heart. He is Chu Mingyuan's man. I don't like you to associate with him. Chu Yihan said with arrogance, almost commanding her. Su Yingxue's heart sank. Today, he was injured while testing medicine for my brother. One was just giving him medicine to thank him. Of course, she didn't tell Chu Yihan about her intention to gather information about her mother from Lan Ling, because she felt that it wasn't necessary to disturb him. Chu Mingyuan's men only have one ending. You don't have to worry about it. At this moment, Chu Yihan was so cold that Su Yingxue had never seen him before. He sent her to the entrance of the Marquis Manor and rode away. Su Yingxue stood on the spot for a long time. Her hands and feet were cold. She felt that there was a depth to Chu Yihan, many things that were far beyond her understanding. For example, his relationship with the Silver Moon Pavilion. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 229. Su Yuri's mother. During the Empress' birthday banquet in the palace, many rumors were circulating, most of which were related to Su Yingxue. However, when Lin Cixi came to gossip with Su Yingxue, she made the situation sound even more extraordinary. Dr. Su, you don't know. There are so many young masters queuing up outside, all wanting to marry you. They said that you can bring prosperity to the husband's family. Moreover, no one would dare to go against you. One came today, and 2 stewards gave me a visiting card and asked me to pass it to you. Lin Cece placed the 2 visiting cards on Su Yingshi's desk. Su Yingxue glanced at them and casually tossed them aside. Recently, the clinic has started admitting patients to stay, and there's a lot of work to do. I'm too busy for marriage matters, let alone entertaining such visits. Previously, Consort Xiang had sent Xiangling over to invite her into the palace for a chat, but she didn't have the time to go. So how could she have the leisure to care about this now? She wanted to spend more time reading the medicinal books and letters left by her mother. Recently, she came across a particularly interesting one that discussed surgical procedures. Although she didn't understand what surgical procedures were, her mother's letters contained a lot of information about this type of medical book. She even left a box for her to find a way to open. She planned to delve into the book thoroughly before attempting to open the box. Dr. Su, you're either reading or seeing patients. That was the last patient in the morning. You should take a break and listen to what I have to say. Lin Cece, besides practicing martial arts, often came to find Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue lowered her head to read her book. It's fine. Go ahead. I'm listening. All right then. Let me tell you about Minister Wu's family first. They seem to have brought this upon themselves, and now their situation is miserable. Madame Wu fell seriously ill after returning from the Empress' birthday banquet and later developed hysteria. Lord Wu locked her in the room, nailed the door shut, and left her to fend for herself. As for Wu Ruofei, it seemed that no one wanted her because she made a fool of herself. Originally, Lord Wu had arranged a modest marriage for her, but he was recently exposed to corruption and bribery. He's now in the capital prefecture's prison, and the marriage is off. Wu Ruofei spends her days crying at home. When Su Yingxue heard this, she raised her head and smiled. This is karma. After she left the palace, she handed Wu Hongtao's account book to Liang Jin. Liang Jin was stern and detested corruption. Naturally, he would punish Wu Hongtao. As for Madame Wu and her daughter, from the moment they plotted against her and her brother, their good days were already numbered. What surprised her now was that when she and Ziwei went to investigate the Wu family the other day, they found out that Wu Ruofei's maid, a girl named Feng He, had inexplicably died. Ziwei found the corpse and Su Yingxue went to examine it. She discovered that she was killed by a sharp blade, a single fatal blow. Apart from seeking revenge, no one in the Wu family would lay a hand on a maid like her. And those who could seek revenge on her. The first thing that popped up in Su Yingshi's mind was Su Yura's figure. With Su Yura's scheming mind, she had never thought of silencing the maid. The only person who could help her plan and send someone to take action was her skilled mother. Sister Wu, you're so beautiful today. Lin Cece couldn't help but exclaim when she saw Wu Jinyan enter. Wu Jinyan was wearing a long, wavy, akubla dress, with a cloud hairpin adorning her side-swept hair. Her makeup was exquisite, radiating elegance and charm. In her hands, she carried a tray containing 2 new dresses and some cosmetics, hairpins, and accessories. Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows and smiled. Has the owner of Thousand Jiao Pavilion come to do business at my clinic? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 230. She wanted to propose marriage to Chu Jinling. Wu Jinyan glared at her. That's right. One specially came to drive Su's clinic to make a loss. She placed the tray on Su Yingshi's table and let her and Lin Cece make their selections. Every girl loved new clothes and jewelry, even if Su Yingxue spent her days in the clinic and Lin Cece wielded weapons all day. When they saw what Wu Jinyan had sent over, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. Su Yingxue was generous and let Lin Cece choose first, with whatever remained to be hers. Lin Cece shook her head firmly. Miss Wu is your future sister-in-law. No matter what, you should be the first to pick the things she gives you, Dr. Su. Even if I choose it, one rarely have the opportunity to wear them. Do you think one can wear colorful and glamorous dressed and put on makeup in this clinic? Su Yingxue spread her hands helplessly. Lin Cece sized her up. She was always dressed in either red or black martial attire, with a beautiful face free of makeup. A simple white jade hairpin was the only adornment in her flowing hair, presenting a modest and straightforward appearance. In a clinic filled with the scent of medicine and the presence of patients, heavy makeup might be more trouble than it's worth. Lin Cece smiled. Then I want stand on ceremony. She chose a green dress and some bright jewelry. Wu Jinyin was a few years older than Lin Cece and Su Yingxue. When she saw how youthful and beautiful Lin Cece was, she couldn't help but be envious. Miss Lin, you're young and tender, and this elegant style suits you well. Lin Cece held the clothes and gestured at her body. She casually said, "It was the 9th prince who said that I look good in green. One bought some hairpins the day before yesterday, and they were all made of green jade." Did the 9th prince mention anything about a girl who wields weapons not being ladylike? Su Yingxue's eyes flashed as she tentatively asked. Lin Cece pouted and looked proud. No, he said that both men and women are the same. Strong martial skills and a bold character are admirable in both, and he even said he would persuade the 9th prince to take me as a disciple to fulfill my dreams. The 9th prince really understands you. Wu Jinyin smiled slightly, and there was a hint of understanding in her eyes. He does indeed understand me. Lin Cece lowered her head, a hint of shyness appearing on her face. Su Yingxue and Wu Jinyin both burst into laughter spontaneously. When Lin Cece came back to her senses, she realized she had been tricked. She threw the clothes at Su Yingxue. All right, Dr. Su. You both conspired to test me. Too treacherous. That's not quite right. We're good friends. What's wrong with showing concern for your marriage? Your status is compatible with the 9th prince. He is not shrewd and smart. The two of you make a great pair. In the future, with one being a female general and the other a great writer, how many eternal stories will the 9th prince create? Su Yingxue thought of Chu Jinling's best-selling book and felt like laughing. Chu Jinling gave her 2 copies, and she would flip through them when she was free. Needless to say, the stories written by someone with such good writing skills, even if they were fabricated, were incredibly captivating. Lin Cece nodded. One also think that marrying him in the future is not bad. When the time comes, I'll have my father propose marriage. Wu Jinyin was stunned at first, but then she was very impressed. In the entire Great Qing dynasty, the only girl who dared to directly propose marriage to the prince's residence was probably Lin Cece. The three of them chatted for a while before Wu Jinyin brought up a serious topic with Su Yingxue. Yesterday, a guest came to the Thousand Jiao Pavilion and I personally received her. However, I feel, Yingxue, you should be more careful in the Marquis manner. Wu Jinyin patted her hand. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. Chapter 231. The special guest of Thousand Jiao Pavilion Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows. What kind of guest is it that made Sister Jinyin so nervous? I guess that she is Su Yuris' mother, the woman that the Marquis kept outside Lu Shulan. Wu Jinyin's eyes were filled with deep meaning. How do you know? Su Yingxue frowned. In her previous life, she didn't meet Lu Shulan many times. The first time was when she was a child, and she saw her father and Lu Shulan meeting secretly. She only remembered that the woman had a gentle temperament and was very good at coaxing people. However, with her grandfather around, she hadn't been able to enter the Marquis manor for many years. Therefore, the last time she saw her was before her death. She accompanied Su Yuro to see her in destitution. At that time, she had been reduced to nothing and was already tortured beyond recognition. Every time Su Yuro saw her, she would add new injuries to her and torture her. However, Lu Shulan didn't give off that domineering vibe. Her eyes were pitiful and full of compassion, something Su Yingxue never understood until she died. Many things were clear in front of her eyes after her rebirth. At that time, Lu Shulan pitied her because she was too foolish to the point of no return. As for compassion, perhaps it was because she felt that even though she hadn't entered the Marquis manor for so many years, what she received was something Su Yingxue had never seen in her entire life. Wu Jinyin said in detail, She was dressed in a reserved and luxurious manner. Moreover, as soon as she entered the shop, she subtly mentioned my name. Naturally, I would personally entertain her. She seemed to be chatting about her daily life, but the topic was always about the Marquis Manor and you. She even used your brother's matter to tease me. Later, she bought several thousand taels worth of items, and one ordered the shopkeeper to register her address, saying that we would regularly send her fashionable fabrics. That address was Yaoguang Garden. One sent people to investigate, and they witnessed Marquis entering. Su Yingxue smiled and nodded. Sister Jinyan is very thoughtful. If it wasn't for the fact that Wu Jinyan was such a meticulous person, she probably wouldn't have noticed it so easily. It's not that I'm thoughtful. One always feel that she intentionally let me notice, then used my mouth to convey the message to you. Wu Jinyan frowned slightly. This was what she was worried about. She grew up in a tough environment, so she was meticulous and observed people. This Lu Shulan was much more difficult to deal with than the minister's estate's Madame Wu. Sister Wu, how did you know? Lin Cece listened for a long time, her small face filled with confusion. Wu Jinyan looked at the innocence in her eyes and felt that it was rare. She pursed her lips and smiled. It's probably a woman's intuition. There were many things that Su Yingxue could immediately understand, but Lin Cece was different. Sister Jinyan was originally a pearl covered in dust. Now that the Wu family is gone, she naturally doesn't have to conceal herself and can shine brightly. Su Yingxue pinched Lin Cece's face. Yes, now that the Wu family is gone. Sister Jinyan, will you be sad? Lin Cece blurted out. Su Yingxue wanted to cover her mouth, but she was too slow. Wu Jinyan lowered her head, and a hint of dimness crossed her eyes, but quickly, they regained their initial brightness. Many years ago, I raised myself. The honor and disgrace of the Wu family had nothing to do with me. Now, what concerns me is only the Thousand Jiao Pavilion. One only need to manage it with dedication and do what I want to do. Wu Jinyan came today, and even brought the account book over for Su Yingxue to take a look. Su Yingxue had spent a lot of money investing in Thousand Jiao Pavilion. Although she managed it, most of the final income was meant for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue looked at the account book, raised her pen, and changed the profit-sharing ratio written by Wu Jinyan from 9 to 1 to an equal split of 5 to 5. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.